Boop 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 boop. Boop 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 boop. Holy cow. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I am in a food coma. I have a food coma. Food coma. I went out for wings with a friend and she couldn't eat all her wings. And so she offered if I wanted to eat some of her wings. And so I ate all of my wings and then some of her wings. And now I have the food comas. I have the food comas. So we're gonna stagger through this one today while in a food coma. Today is the food coma day. Bex, an absolute pleasure to see you with the little wavy hand emoji. A good fine and stalwart emoji. Let me quickly, I'm gonna need to change that to that. Because I got a couple of videos that we're gonna look at. Definitely not an excuse for me to not talk and have other people do the talking while I deal with my food coma. Oh, also didn't help that my little dog was like, "Hey, wake up early. Wake up early. I know you haven't slept at all. I know you haven't had any sleep, and I know the sleep that you've had is really rough. But now wake up. You gotta face the day, John. Face the day. Get a food coma." But here we are. Absolutely lovely to see friends. Absolutely lovely to see people and hang out with them and hear what they are experiencing and feel what they are experiencing and see what it is that they are experiencing. I think the stress of this capitalist existence is something that we're not allowed to talk about too much, right? There's all this like, Bell Media, let's talk. Let's talk about mental health. Okay, everybody, it's time to talk about mental health issues. Today, here at Google, we are releasing a document about how to deal with your mental health. But all it is how to keep working. Like that's really what they're talking about when they're talking about mental health, right? How to continue sitting in a cubicle, staring at a screen, doing your job like a compliant worker. That's what the mental health crisis, and that's what the conversation surrounding the mental health crisis is actually all about. It's not about your mental health. It's about how to keep you working and how to make sure that you are productive for the system of capital. And it's about defining your mental health based on your productivity. That if your productivity is high, then your mental health is good. If your productivity is low, your mental health is bad. Bell, let's talk. And it's difficult watching the people around me who are struggling with the system of capital, but who haven't admitted or acknowledged that there is no escape hatch, you know? Like, I've talked about this before, and I suppose it's a grim subject to bring up, and so people get uncomfortable with it, I think. But I think it's important to talk about, and it's important to discuss that the system of capital gets you wound up into this manic, anxiety-ridden place where the purpose of life is to find meaning. And of course, that meaning is defined exclusively by the value of your employment, the job that you hold, your status, the amount of wealth that you accumulate, the position you have within the hierarchy, that you're always set on this endless quest of goal seeking for a higher title, a new promotion, a new position, a new situation that you find yourself in the system. And people, I think, lose track, if they ever had their finger on the thumb of it, or their thumb on the pulse of it, or their finger on the pulse of it. Oh my goodness. They lose the thread. They lose the actual perception of the reality that we're in. That in their quest to find something, they sort of lose focus on the fact that none of this actually has the meaning that they are so desperate to attribute to it. That they're panicked, manic, moving around is more influenced by their anxiety surrounding their need to pay food and rent than it is on some sort of larger existential question. And when you finally come out the end of these large existential questions, it's very difficult to conclude anything other than, we're just kind of here, just sort of biding our time, sort of just chilling. And we've made the temporary moment that we are here more difficult for ourselves than it needs to be. And instead of relaxing into a accepted reality of the condition that we find ourselves in, the system of capital gets us all wound up into it and gets us all in a tizzy and gets us all panicked, because otherwise, how can they drive us forward and make money? How else can they get us to work away the fleeting moments? The only thing that you actually have that is actually of value to you is your time. It's literally the only thing that actually matters to you is your time. And we spend most of it for capitalists who drain us like vampires and ghouls. And we spend so much time worrying about it, and we spend so much time when the truth is that we just need to take a breath, just exist in the space that you're living in, just exist where you are, and do what you are doing, and worry less about it. That all of this will be gone soon. That's just the natural passage of reality. That sooner than you think, much sooner than you think, you'll be gone. And all this will be gone. And everything you know will be gone. So, shouldn't we spend the most amount of time possible simply enjoying the ride that we're on? Simply just enjoying it. Simply just spending time with people you love and actually being there with those people, doing things that you love to do, exploring those things that you're attracted to, without judgment or guilt or apprehension, and simply creating space within your reality to continue pursuing those objectives. Isn't that where true meaning lay? In the idea of actually enjoying the time that you have here, instead of attempting to build up some kind of existential loose idea of meaning in a system that seems utterly devoid of it. And it's one of those things that I think about my own life and my own position in it and how much I have actually sacrificed in order to pursue this very simple idea that we should just enjoy the time we have here and not worry so much about it. And it's funny because in a way it's much more difficult to do that than it is to simply put your head down and grind into the system of capital. There's a kind of, I don't know, stubbornness that one needs, I think, in order to actually say to the system of capital, no, you're wrong. I disagree with your suppositions. I'm not going to perpetuate the lie. I'm not going to move forward with the lie. I don't want to be part of your in-group. I'm not interested in being part of the in-group of capital. I would like to enjoy myself. And I don't think that we should be ashamed of that. And I see good people who are wasting a lot of their energy desperately worried about what capitalists are going to think. And I wish we wouldn't. I wish we wouldn't. Mikhail, good to see you. Ben, asking a big question right away. I think this is going to be a pretty quiet stream today, so I've got a whole bunch of stuff in front of us to talk about. Ben asks, politics predictions for 2024. Yeah, lots of big things about to come in 2024, right? We're going to swing to the far right. That's what's going to happen. Like, I don't think that that's even a prediction, right? Like, I don't think you need to be Nostradamus to see that that's the truth, right? Like, if a building is like this, like if you saw a picture of a building and it was like this, right? And there was nothing pulling it up and there's no kind of thing like this and the building's like this. Is it a prediction to say that the building is going to go like that? You know? So I don't think that what I'm saying is predictive. I think it's pretty plain and pretty obvious that I think that's pretty plain and pretty obvious that we're going to swing to the far right. Things are going to get really openly kind of Nazi-ish, I think. It's going to get really, really on the nose. And it's going to get really weird and really creepy, I think. Azron, I love this shit, thank you. Oh, well, that's kind of you to say, Azron. I do worry when I start talking that way that I alienate people, so your commentary is welcome, certainly. Content, what the fuck am I looking at? Yeah, good. Finally someone commenting on this beautiful masterpiece. Yeah, I just wanted to show this kind of thing. Ukraine war runs out of gas, maybe. The Ukraine war is out of gas. They're just deciding, like, the war is over, right? It's the lines have been drawn. Like, maybe the Russians, like right now what we're looking at is no longer, I don't think you could consider a war any longer. I think that you should consider the conflict that exists in Ukraine as a border scuffle now. That the border has been drawn for the most part. Perhaps the Russians are going to move the line a little bit forward, right? But for the most part, where the line is drawn is pretty much where it's going to be. The Russians don't want to move into Ukraine. I think that's pretty clear. They're not pushing hard because they have the territory they want. They're not interested in governing they're not interested in governing Ukraine. They're not interested in taking on that project, mainly because the Ukrainians don't want them there. And they don't want to turn it into this really difficult, crazy war effort, right? They don't want to have to bring another million people in. They don't want to have to do this enormous, massive project. They don't want to have to subjugate a people. I think that's the big part, right? The subjugation of the Ukrainian populace would be the most difficult part. And so the Russians don't want to do it. They never wanted to do it. They never said that they were going to go in there and do anything, right? Monet on Twitch. I might be missing a major part of this, but why is Russia doing this? Is it the same reason that Israel's committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza? No. Okay, so great question, actually. I want to get this right. Yaka Monet. Yaka Monet? Okay, great. So, Monet, I do think that you're missing a major part of it. There is a really, really great interview given. I'm gonna show this because I think I've got this saved. If not, it's in my. Yeah, okay. I know where to grab this. Hold on, give me 1 second, okay? We're gonna go to resources, and we're gotta get this cleaned up. This right here. This video right here. Just Google this, okay? I'll give you the briefest possible cliff notes. You want a Ukraine War Primer with Jeffree Sachs. Dialogue works.
Tried everything.
This is a brilliant video to watch if you want to basically just know everything that you can. Well, not everything, obviously, but if you want like a super solid primer about what's actually happening in Ukraine and how this came to be. This is the video. Like Jeffree Sachs just takes you right through it. He walks you right through the history. Takes about half an hour for him to do so. And then there's a good Q&A section at the end where this fellow, Nima Rostami, asks some really good questions. And Jeffree Sachs is very prescient, very knowledgeable, very aware. So seek this video out. If you want the Cliff's Note version, okay? NATO expansion leads Russia to say straight out, if you continue pushing the line towards us, we are going to push back. The Americans say, we don't give a crap, and they keep pushing. And so Russia moves in to Ukraine. And that's the entire story, right? That's the entire story. That's the Cliff Notes version. That if you are sitting there thinking to yourself, Putin is a madman who wants to seize territory, Hitler-esque, or like Netanyahu, right? I've got news for you. There is a much larger story at play. There's a lot of different elements in that story. And the largest possible paintbrush I can give you, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about it for my regular viewers who have seen me talk about this several times, is the United States was pushing NATO and expanding NATO towards Russia. Russia said on several occasions, this is a red line. If you cross this red line, we will go to war over it. The United States continued to push that red line, and so Russia went to war about it. And that is the largest possible brush stroke. That another good voice to listen to in this conversation is John Mearsheimer. And he essentially tells the same story, that the United States is largely responsible for that conflict in Ukraine, that it was entirely avoidable, and that every single time, and this is very key and important to realize, okay? Every single time that Russia has stepped to the table to negotiate for peace, the West has stepped to the table in bad faith and have acknowledged that they have done so in bad faith. The betrayal at the Minsk Accords has soured relations between Russia and the West in a way that I don't think can be repaired. That Putin was negotiating in good faith and was attempting to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict, and the West was using that as an opportunity to arm Ukraine. The Germans admitted it. The Americans admitted it. NATO admitted it. That what they were doing with the Minsk Accord is buying time for Ukraine to arm them. And while Putin was attempting to negotiate in good faith. I think that I don't think that negotiations are going to be taken seriously by the Russians anymore. I don't think that they see a peaceful resolution being serious from NATO. I don't think that they trust NATO, and I don't think NATO is trustworthy. any longer. And I think that that's the situation. That should a deal be struck, that it will be a deal between the Ukrainians and Russia. And that's where the deal will be struck. I think that it is possible, but I think the actual strategy right now for the Russians is to draw this line, hold this line, declare that this territory is Russia, and essentially tell the West and Ukraine, fucking deal with it. And I don't, like, there will come a moment where there will be a formal agreement and there will be a formal acknowledgement, but it might actually very well be after Putin is out of office and after Zelensky is out of office. Like, there will be new players at the table before we see an actual acknowledgement that the Donbass region and Crimea is part of Russia now. And as far as the Western media is concerned, it'll be reported on page 52, Article 73, quietly just Ukraine conflict draws to a close. Agreement struck, right? The leadership of Ukraine and Russia sat down to come to an agreement. And there'll be like some article somewhere that'll be like, America decided to move its resources elsewhere, right? This isn't a resounding loss for America, even though they are still publishing articles outright and explicitly saying that if America loses in Ukraine, then they've lost the new Cold War. But they'll just change the narrative, right? Americans have the memory of a goldfish. So, Cotton writes, John, I left you a good source on Soviet nutrition in your resources. Excellent. I'll take a look at that. For my regular viewers, right now, the resources section is for just that. It's for resources. So I see some people have like dumped some stuff in here that I think they meant to put in like the general or something like this. Like a video from this guy is nice and all, but it's like I'm expecting resources to be like a smoking gun. You know what I mean? Like if there was an article that proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that JFK was assassinated by aliens, and it was just like the evidence is clear. That's what I want in resources. And incidentally, that is what we believe here at the Canadian Commie, that JFK was assassinated by aliens. So, just so you guys know, fully truth, not being satirical right now at all. He says, gotcha. Also, my name is pronounced Erica Monet. Erica Monet. Okay. Like just, of course, Erica. Jeez Louise. What's even going on anymore? Canadian housing bubble deflates a bit more. The Canadian housing bubble is not going to deflate. Like, this is something that I hate to be the bearer of bad news, right? The idea surrounding the concept that the Canadian housing bubble will deflate is an idea. It pretends as though what is happening in the housing market is just sort of business as usual. Right, and that this is just a supply and demand issue. We'll build more housing, right? The housing market is being bought by billionaires. That is what is happening. That the billionaire class is taking its liquid capital, right? It's treasury bonds, it's stock market, it's stock options. It's dollars, it's yen, it's won, it's rubles, right? It's taking its liquid capital that the system of capital is actually arranging to depreciate over time, right? So if you're holding dollars, like if you have $100,000 worth of dollars, you're gonna walk up to a bank and you're gonna say, hey, I have $100,000 worth of dollars. Can I put this in your bank account and then have that money appreciate over time? Can I get interest on this, right? I'll give you the money, you'll invest the money, and then I'll get a piece of that investment, right? And so everybody wins, right? This is the scheme. So that's true if you have $100,000, and the bank will say, yeah, of course, $100,000 will appreciate that, and in 20 years, your $100,000 will make X amount of money, blah, 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 right? If you have $1 billion, and you walk up to a bank, and you say, hey, I have $1 billion, right? Can you hold my $1 billion? The bank is going to say, okay, but we're going to charge you a fee, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And in fact, that amount of money is not going to appreciate over time. Why? Well, because where do you think they're getting the money to pay everybody else? That the system isn't just a rocket to the moon. The system is a cycle. The system is a circle. And if you have a bunch of players with $100,000 and one player with $100 billion, well, how do you think the guys with $100,000 are getting the money? Where do you think their appreciation is coming from? And so if you're the guy with the $1 billion, you don't want that money to just sit in a bank because it loses money. This is negative interest rates, right? That banks introduced, after the 2008 financial collapse, the banks introduced negative interest rates into the system. And so the capitalists ever since have been going around trying to find a way to invest their money in ways that will make it appreciate, because that's the goal. Make the numbers go up. Rocket to the moon, right? That's the theory of neoliberal capital. That's Milton Friedman's theory. Infinite growth in a limited market, right? Like the rocket goes up forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It's not a cycle like literally everything else, right? Which is why it's a fucking death cult ideology. No, it's not a cycle. It's an infinite rocket to the moon forever. So you're looking around for where to invest your capital, where to invest your liquid capital so it doesn't depreciate. And what have they found? Oh, I can just buy land. I can just buy housing, right? That's not going to depreciate. The land is the land is the land is the land. And in fact, if I buy up most of the property, then the value goes sky high. And in fact, if we strangle this market and tighten the supply, the value goes up exponentially. It goes up crazy, right? And in fact, if I buy and invest in every single property that is to even be built, then that means the value of my currency goes up. And so what they've done is they've taken our housing market and they've turned it into currency. That the houses are no longer houses. They're no longer a commodity. They're no longer something for people to use. They're no longer even assets in a traditional kind of way. They are liquid capital to the billionaire class, right? They don't care about them otherwise. They don't care about anything else. And so under these conditions, unless something serious happens, which we're an unserious people, we're literally electing far-right goons, under these conditions, the housing market is not going to deflate. In fact, I expect it'll get much worse. It'll get much, 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 much worse. Because the solution, quote unquote, the solution, Seraphim, good to see you, Eggsy, Isaac, good to see you guys. The solution that we're putting on the table, right? And I put that solution in air quotes because it's comical that this is the way that this solution is being presented to us, is to, the solution is to build more houses, right? Oh, this is a supply issue. The system of capital is willing to capitulate that it's an utter failure at providing basic needs to its people, right? They confess it to your face. The system of capital is incapable of providing basic necessities to its people. They've confessed it to your face. And the reason why they're willing to confess that they're incapable of basic prediction of how much housing we need for how many people are going to exist in our society, right? The reason why they're willing to confess this total failure is because what's actually going on is much worse. because what's actually going on is the wealthy are buying up the houses, keeping them empty, and ensuring that people live in homelessness and poverty in order to increase the value of their currency, which is your housing. And so the solution that they're putting on the table, and the only solution that anybody's willing to buy into, is let's tax the public. That's you, by the way. If you're paying taxes, that's you. Let's tax the people to build more housing that the rich then turn around and purchase. That's the solution that they've put on the table. And so this crisis is going to deepen, and it's going to get way worse. Like, you think the houses are expensive now. You think the housing prices are expensive now. Just wait. Because now they've just turned into trading commodities for the rich. Now the rich are using them as ways to trade with one another. And they don't give a fuck if you don't have housing. They don't care. Fuck you. They don't care at all. And so your housing bubble is not going to deflate at all. We're going through a minor deflationary period now, but that deflationary period only exists because they are keeping interest rates high. But high interest rates don't punish the wealthiest people in the system. They hyper punish the smaller players. Like, if you're a guy with 3 houses or 4 houses, and you're sitting there paying your loan off on this house, and the interest rates go up on you, you're like, oh goodness, oh wow, that's really tough. Oh, I better sell off one of these. Oh goodness. But who are you selling it off to? Well, you're going to sell it to fucking BlackRock. You're going to sell it to the guy that's going to pay you the most, right? And that's BlackRock, Vanguard, 6th Street, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, right? The actual big players. And while it kind of sucks for them a little that the interest rate went up, they don't give a fuck. They have hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars at their disposal. The interest rate going up does not disincentivize their activity. It just kills smaller players and increases the amount of acquisition that the larger players have, right? That's what raising the interest rates actually achieves and actually does, and that's why they're doing it. So that the bigger players the rich get richer, so that the asset pool goes up. And what's that going to do? It's going to increase the value of their property. It's going to increase the value of their assets. It's going to make your rent go up. So the idea that the bubble is going to deflate, what a joke. What a joke. Like, I think that you have to be living in a fantasy land to believe that that's going to continue. As soon as the smaller players are chased out of the market, as soon as the smaller players can no longer compete, the rich are going to do everything they can to drive the value of their currency, your housing, through the roof. So that's my... And I don't even see that as a prediction. That's like 1 + 1 = 2. Like, there's the building. Where do you expect it to go? Like, it's not. We are at a point now where, like, to even say that this is predictive, I think is it's sort of an odd word to say. Like, it's perfectly. You just have to stop believing these morons. Just have to stop believing the liars that lie to you constantly. Vosh Lover. Dude, you just keep coming back, eh? You just love it. You just love the punishment. But you know what? Here's the thing, Vosh Lover. Here's the reason why you're welcome in here, okay? And why I think you do keep coming back, right? Is that we answer your questions. We answer your concerns and your queries. And so far you've been polite. I got to tell you, right? Like, you're definitely you're definitely wrong. But you've been polite. And so you're welcome to be here if you're going to be polite. Yeah, Vosh Lover, who's that? Some pedo? Yeah. I mean, it's deeply unfortunate to throw your lot in with someone like Vosh, for sure. Just like literally an FBI snitch who has defended pedophilia in the past. one thing at least, they are exploiting an ammunition manufacturing weakness in the West with a war of attrition. Yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. And there's a bunch of different ways of looking at the Ukraine crisis for sure. But like, to me, it's just the Americans cannot continue that war. They can't continue to fund just an endless grinding war of attrition. Russia has one war, right? Well, like two, if you really want to count Syria. Like, if you really, really do want to count Syria. Russia really just has, like, the one conflict on its border. That's, like, the major conflict that it's got going on. America has, like, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. Can't forget about that. The many wars and the many coups that they fund throughout the Middle East, throughout Africa, throughout Latin America, right? Like they're stretched pretty thin, right? So they cannot fund a major offensive. And they cannot keep a major offensive going on, especially as their own people, right? Like, I'm not going to fucking Ukraine, right? Like, and this is the best part. All of these Ukraine stands who changed their Facebook pages to yellow and blue and were like waving little flags, being like, stand with Ukraine. None of them are going to Ukraine, right? It's all great to like stand with Ukraine as long as it's over there, right? More like sit on a couch for Ukraine. Right? So like nobody's going to Ukraine. And the people who did go to Ukraine were just like a handful of lunatics that immediately left. So like what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen here? Yeah, Canada continues sending weapons and supplies as if it is a large war. Our government seems more steadfast pro-Ukraine than any other Western government, and it doesn't make sense. It does make sense. A lot of the power of the Liberal Party exists within the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and within the Ukrainian people, right? Canada has a pretty large Ukrainian population that's extremely well organized and supports Nazism, like very explicitly. Right, like that the Nazi that was honored by the Liberals in the Canadian Parliament was part of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, right? So they're pro-Nazi people. They keep Nazis in their rank. They support Nazism, and they vote Liberal, right? People like Chrystia Freeland rather is the descendant of a Nazi collaborator herself and is part of this community of Nazis, right? And so it makes sense that they continue to support Ukraine, right? Because the Liberals have a lot of Ukrainian support internally. They rely on it. It's how they win elections, right? The Ukrainian people come out and vote Liberal. So it makes all the sense in the world. And it's the same reason why Pierre Elliott Trudeau is one of the very few politicians that acknowledged the Holodomor, right? Like, once you understand that the people who are voting Liberal are Ukrainian Nazis, a lot of policies of the Liberal Party start to make a lot more sense. Who is the son of the Nazi again? Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. Her grandfather worked under Goebbels, was a Nazi collaborator. So, Vosh Lover writes, let's respond to Vosh Lover. This is going to be good. I need something like this right now. I'm going to tell you, I said it right at the beginning, I'll say it again, guys. I'm definitely in a food coma. I'm 100% in a food coma right now, so I'm just like, brr. So please forgive me if I'm feeling a little slow on the draw. Higher interest rates usually result in lower home prices. That's true in normal conditions, right? I'm pretty forgiving, right? And I think most people do this, where they think that we're in normal conditions. We're not in normal conditions, right? It's not a handful of Canadians and Americans vying for housing in an open market. Right? It's not just like I'm going to go to work, and I work in a mine, and I'm a doctor, and I'm a politician, and I'm a teacher, right? Like, it's not regular citizens vying for resources in an open market. We have enormous, massive, conglomerate, billion-dollar institutions, like at this point, trillion-dollar institutions, like BlackRock, Vanguard, and Sixth Street, who are competing in that market. These are not normal conditions. So when you try to do your interest rate solution, it's not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is because raising the interest rates punishes smaller players more than it punishes larger players. It's like if you put a 50% tax on a guy who has $1,000, okay? So a 50% tax, you only have $1,000. A 50% tax. That means that you lose 50% of $1,000. That means you only have $500 now. Right? That is extremely punishing. You're literally going from having the money to pay rent that month to not having the money to pay rent seriously. If you have $1 billion and the tax rate is 50%, you still have $500 million. So punishing, to be sure, right? 50% tax rate on $1 billion is a lot of money, but you're still paying rent significantly. You're easily clearing rent. You have $500 million. So with the same logic, the interest rates do the same thing. That a 12% interest rate punishes smaller players more than it punishes larger players. And as soon as you acknowledge that there are billionaires in the conversation and that this is not a typical situation that we are facing, the more that you understand that that's the truth. I don't really hold it against people for not putting this together or not being willing or not like naturally glomming onto this, because the entire system has aligned itself for you to not consider it, for you to ignore it, not pay attention to it. That's not, we're all just competing normally. I'm like doctor, lawyer, engineers, right? No, Bill Gates is in this conversation now, and Bill Gates is buying up housing, right? And he's not interested in renting. Like, that's the other part of it. So the whole thing has become a series of perverse incentives. The entire thing has become a series of perverse incentives. That's why the feds raised them, because the housing price went up so fast, so quick. Yeah, I mean, I do tend to believe that within the Federal Reserve and within the system, there are good faith actors. I do think that is true, and that's usually the case, that there are people that are like, oh, wow, well, the housing markets, well, you know what the solution has been previously in the past. Previously in the past, when we've previously encountered this problem previously, one of the solutions to put on the table is to raise interest rates. Well, this problem that we're facing now is not the problem we used to face. That we are facing a much more serious problem. And it will not be resolved through raising the interest rates. In fact, I argue that raising the interest rates is going to make the problem much, much, much worse. Because the problem that's occurring is new. It's a new problem. Like, we haven't had billionaires hoarding up and buying the market this way before. This is new. The anarchist, we're letting the dumbest among us lead in every field. This is the capitalist realism we live in. Yeah, I talk about that all the time. That this is what happens when you create a system that rewards a single quality, right? Like, people like Peterson talk all the time about ascending the hierarchy, right? Ascending the meritocracy, right? Yeah, that thing to do is you need to put in the effort, and that'll make you raise the meritocracy. And if you raise on the hierarchy and increase your competency, the competency is the number one vector for success. Okay, well, competency in what? Exactly. Competency in what? Precisely. And when you actually look at what competency you need in order to ascend the hierarchy, the competency that you need is the competency to do what you're told. That's the competency. That if you do what you're told and you do it very well, you ascend the hierarchy. And when you have a system that primarily, not exclusively, mind you, but primarily vets for people who do what they're told, then you end up with a very dim-witted populace. You end up with a populace who is, you end up with a populace of sheep, that the people who are put into leadership positions are actually followers, because they are the people who have only ever exhibited one specific trait, which is doing what they're told. And a person who has only ever done what they are told cannot lead and is not a leader, right? And doesn't have ideas and doesn't have thoughts and doesn't have concepts of how to exist in a society, because they're always looking at someone else saying, well, what do you think? And the reason why capitalists find that to be so useful is because when their politicians and people and CEOs are looking for someone's advice, well, there's only one person left at the end of the chain, and that's the person who holds the assets. So when Justin Trudeau runs out of ideas and doesn't have any thoughts, he turns to David Thompson. And David Thompson says, this is what we should do. And lo and behold, and big fucking surprise, the solution to every problem is make me rich. So, like, it's a society of dimwits, and it's structured to be that way. It's a society of yes, sir, of yes men. It's a society of yes men, because it's a system that vets out anybody who stands up and says, hold on a minute, I'm not going to do that. That sounds like bullshit. If you do that, then you get an F and you get pushed out of the system. That's how it works. And we all know it. Like, we all know it. That's the structure of the system. That's how it is. Right? That you either need to exhibit a total unflinching fealty, right, with a belief in the system that is unwavering, or you at least need to be smart enough to put your head down and just say yes, sir, and do your work, right? At the barest minimum, you have to be willing to just keep your mouth shut and do the work, right? And anybody who's not willing to keep their mouth shut and do the work gets an F and fails and gets chased out of the system. That's how it works. Right? And what's the result? We see the results right in front of us. Just a society of dim-witted yes men who can't actually get anything done. Ukrainians vote liberal, in my experience. They always vote conservative. They don't traditionally actually vote conservative. They will vote conservative. But there's a reason why the Liberals are considered the natural ruling class in Canada. That Liberals kowtow to Ukrainians in order to get their votes, and they do so by making political concessions to them. Right? We'll acknowledge the Holodomor. We'll do this. We'll do that. But conservatives do it too. Right? And conservatives are a little bit more willing to work with the Nazis, right? Although the Liberals literally honored a Nazi, so I don't know what these guys are looking for. Like, you're not wrong. Like, the Ukrainian vote isn't 100% shored up in the Liberal Party. They will vote conservative for sure. But, I mean, yeah, what else is new, right? The Liberals and the Conservatives are allies. They work together. Bread Bunny morning. Is it morning? It's where are you at, Bread Bunny? Where's the morning? Goodness. Do I have any good news? I think this is good news. Here, I'm going to play this video.
Can't stop thinking about this.
More and more people are figuring it out.
I mean, what if the Sprite was actually an apple? Something that grows in nature for free. And we said to the orangutan, hey, you can't just have that, you have to pay for it. And I know people will say, like, oh, well, we got to pay the people who grew the apples. Well, why do we have to pay them? Because they need money, because they need to live. We need money to live. We need to prove we are worthy of living on this planet where we were all just born. Can you imagine aliens on other planets talking about us, being like, hey, did y'all hear on that planet Earth, they have to pay to live there. They gotta pay rent to live on that planet where they were born. And they gotta pay for the food that's there naturally. And there could be enough for everyone, like, if they weren't so fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty stupid. Pretty stupid. Baked Potato coming in saying, John is right. I like you already. Baked Potato. I like you already. Telling me that I'm right. You know how to get to the bottom of my heart. Oh, man, I've got a lot of open tabs. A lot of just junk open tabs. Sorry, guys. I am unprepared. Yeah, capitalism looted the world. Fidel Castro, spitting some facts. Spitting some facts. Yeah, the U.S. has the most debt in history right now. I mean, who do they have that debt with? Like, this is the thing. Like, first of all, the entire system of debt it's all made up, right? It's all made up. Like, I don't really care that much about what the money has done. Like, it's a useful measurement tool, certainly, but but really it's the assets that you exchange that money for that matters. Yeah. Has a new bookshelf. Good to see you. What would you say to someone who believes children should be raised to get tough? They can't get mental illness. 2 says children grow weak from empathetic, I don't know what that word is, parenting. Says bullying shouldn't be eradicated and preventing. I think that person is dealing with trauma. That's what I think. I think that a person who is walking around saying that we should bully children and make their lives harder to toughen them up is dealing with their own trauma and is projecting their trauma onto the weakest people in the society, which is children. That's what I think. And that what they are doing, instead of trying to deal with their own trauma and dealing with the excessive trauma of their own childhood, is they're trying to project it forward down the line in order to protect other children from the trauma that they themselves received. Projection is the first thing that you should always look at, because it's usually correct. It's usually right that people are projecting their own insecurities and their own traumas and their own difficulties onto other people. I think that's the most common thing that happens. And so what would I say to them? Like, why do you want to beat up children? Like, we should let children play and have as much free time as they possibly can, explore the world, enjoy themselves. We should teach them things like, math and all of this, right? But teaching kids to be traumatized and to be afraid of each other and afraid of the world and afraid of their system and afraid of their society is only going to increase the civilizational trauma. It's only going to make things worse, right? And why are you toughening them up anyway? What are you toughening them up for? Are you toughening them up to just live in a world of systemic capitalism that says that you have to sell your labor? Is that what you're toughening them up for? Right? You're getting them ready for this. You're getting them ready to live in a society and live in a life where they are a commodity to be bought and sold, right? Why? Like, sounds like this is a person who's given up, who is living in a state of capitalist realism and is expressing that state of capitalist realism through violence against children. That's what it sounds like to me, right? Systemic violence, no less. Edward Henrique 206 on Twitch. But you could use the argument that you have to work to live. Work is thus converted into money, and I believe in any society you have to. See, here we just have a fundamental disagreement. In any society, you have to work to survive. Then your society is trash. Right? Your society is trash. What's the point? What's the point of technology? What's the point of discovery? What's the point of all this entrepreneurship? What's the point? So what you're saying to me is if somebody created a device that could just beam food into your hand, right? Literally, you could put your hand into the device and a roast chicken could just come out of it. And it would just be and be created in your hand. And you could literally scoop a mug into a big pool of liquid, and that liquid would have all the nutrients a human could need for 10,000 years. And they could drink one glug of this, and they would have infinite nutrition forever, right? And that we have devised all of these things, and we've created new technologies, and we've created new ways of living, and we've built a society. And then what they do is they put a door in front of that, lock it, and say, get to work. That's your society. I refuse to live in it. I refuse to believe that that's reasonable or rational. Food and shelter should be free. If you think that the point of a society is to withhold food and shelter from people, then your society is trash. And your vision for society is total trash. Complete and total trash and indefensible. Completely indefensible and reprehensible. The point of building a civilization, the point of building a society is to ensure that all members within that society have access to food and shelter first and foremost. And if your society is not doing that, then you don't need to follow their laws. Because their laws are not laws, they're threats. That's what they are. This society withholds food and shelter, and your ideology is bleak and dark, and you should abandon it as fast as you possibly can. Food and shelter should be free. Withholding food and shelter from people is morally reprehensible and completely indefensible. And the entire reason we have come together as a collective to build a society is to eliminate it. And if it's for no other reason, then fuck right off. I don't need to be your friend. Because you're not mine. Because you're standing in front of me saying, hey, you better get to fucking work while I hold on to all these apples. I'm gonna take all the food and put it in a box and put a lock on that box unless you work for me. You're not my fucking friend. You're trying to enslave us. Your argument is an argument for slavery. It's a pro-slavery argument. Fuck off. I thought there were more Ukrainians on the prairies than in the areas that vote liberal. There are a lot of Hutterite colonies, and there are a lot of why am I blanking on this? There's a lot of collectives that live on the prairies. That's definitely true. Well, yeah, what's your definition of work? Like, this sort of manic belief that says that people should starve unless they work for capitalists. Like, geez, the fucking wheeze. Generation Y Me with a $5 donation, thank you, says, I don't like landlords, to be honest. Eduardo says, working is necessary to survive. It's natural in humans. Do you think humans waiter food to reach their mouths? No, we're animals. We have to hunt, farm, fish. Yeah, we've created literal fucking combines. Like Jesus fucking Christ. We're not living in the wilderness. Like, we're not fucking barbarians fishing with spears over here. Like, we've built enormous industrialized structures. Like, literally walk out to a field and watch the combine harvest it and tell me why we're withholding it from people. Like, what's the point? What's the point of all this technology? It used to take 70 to 80% of the populace to farm in agriculture. Literally one generation ago. Right? The baby boomers, when they were born into a society where most of them were agriculturalists. Guess what the percentage is now? 2%. In a single generation, we went from 70% to 2%. Why? Because we automated the fucking thing. Which is the entire fucking point. The entire fucking point of the entire fucking society is to make things easier for everyone. And what have we done with this automation? What have we done with this automation and with with this success, this massive success? We've told everybody to get to fucking work. Well, what's the result of that? A fucking disaster. But do you think it's currently realistic to roboticize or automate all the work we have today? We've already done it. Like, that's what's so fucking embarrassing. Like, we've already done it. Like, the degree of work that actually should be done and needs to be done in the society is minuscule. And we should distribute that labor throughout the populace. Everybody should work to the degree that they must in order to maintain the society, and then the rest of the labor should fuck right off. Literally flush. We're not doing that. Why? Because you gotta work to survive. You gotta work to survive. We're animals. We're just out here hunting. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is deeply offensive to me. Like, this is deeply, deeply offensive to me that we should withhold automated food and shelter from people. Literally, we have an abundance of it, with an embarrassment of riches, and we've locked it behind a door and pointed to people to get to work, animal. In North Korea, they work on average 14 hours a day, source required. Like, sounds like a pretty outlandish claim. Source required. I'll take that source. And I mean, there's a difference between a society that experienced the destruction of its civilization at the hands of Western forces and one that's been building up productive forces since World War II. So, like, the comparison is a weird one to do. It's sort of weird to compare a society that was destroyed by Westerners to one that wasn't. Yes, but industrial agriculture is part of the climate change problem. I think permaculture farming should be discussed more. I think that that's true. Like, we should always have that discussion. I think that industrial agriculture is certainly a problem. I don't think it's the biggest, most glaring problem. Like, I don't. Like, there are bigger hills. There are bigger hurdles, I think. And things that we could, like, pull a switch on in a day. And that where there would be no societal impacts whatsoever, outside of, like, I didn't get to see a Taylor Swift concert. Danarchist, exactly. We've evolved, some of us quicker than others. Yeah, source required, Eduardo. Like, Jesus. Like... Like, and also there's just a fundamental difference between a society where, like, you get a house and you get to work. Like if I was living in a society that was actually trying to build something meaningful, I would work my ass off for it, right? I would work my ass off for a society that was actually building something that would be meaningful, something that I could pass off to my children, something that I could say, like, hey, here we go, we built this, right? Keep it up, keep doing it, right? But we're not doing that. We're tearing everything apart. And any successes that we do have, we keep behind locked doors and say work to survive or starve. Yeah, I don't want to know the person who loves their land leech. Yeah. It's a bit more of an ethical problem with animal treatment. Yeah, animal treatment is the one that gets me, honestly. Like, I struggle with that one. Like... we're in a tough situation. We're in an odd situation where we have to eat life in order to keep living. That's just baked in, and we can't escape it. Like, even if you're a vegetarian, you're eating life, right? That's how we survive on a very basic intrinsic level. That's in the rules. And so we just have to kind of come to terms with how to do that in the least offensive way possible. And other societies and other communities came up with ideas and theories. Like, if you kill an animal, you use all its parts. That's a pretty common one throughout history. We here in the West are sort of grotesque. Like, we have a very grotesque sort of take. Would I like to live in North Korea? Yeah, man, I gotta tell you, dude, everything I've ever seen about North Korea shows me that they're a fine people. Like, this demonization of North Korea, and it's sort of weird now that we're talking about North Korea, right? It's sort of weird that a guy that's talking about withholding food and shelter from people, workers starve, is now trying to demonize North Korea. Why? Right? Every single time I've taken a look at any video, any interview, any conversation, any study, anything whatsoever, I see good people doing their best in difficult situations. Like, and they look like they've built a fine society and a fine culture. Like, I don't understand what you're even talking about. Like, please stop listening to Radio Free Asia. Like, please stop listening to the CIA. The North Koreans look like fine people. If we used industrial farming for need, how often would we need it? Yeah. Think about what we could accomplish if there wasn't a paywall of capitalism. Yeah. From art to science to philosophy to whatever you can think. Yeah. The biggest failing of the system of capital is that it's created. I like that you're using the term paywall. That's an interesting way to look at it. But I use the word bottleneck. That all pursuits need to are eventually confronted by this bottleneck, by this paywall of capital that says you have to get permission from this specific group of people in a very like Dragon's Den-esque sort of way. There's just this barrier of capital that says, okay, you need to convince us. And if you can't convince us, the stupidest, least informed, most detached, least moral, least creative people in the society, that what you're doing has value. And the only value that we see is, does it make me personally rich today? That's the only value that a capitalist attributes to anything. Well, then it doesn't go and it doesn't happen. Right? So any artistic pursuit just basically dies completely. Even though if you actually wanted to build a serious society, the very first thing that you would fund, if you wanted to build a real economy, the very first thing you would fund is the arts. It's the first thing that you would fund. You would pour billions of dollars into the arts. That's how you actually build a real economy, right? Remember that article from South Korea about enslaving people with intellectual disabilities and salt harvesting? Capitalism. That's capitalist innovation, baby. Whenever I see a video of North Korea, I see those tube TVs, and like has a very 70s vibe. Like, the towns are very standardized, the few old cars in the street, very Soviet looking. What a middle boring life. Oh no. Like what a privileged statement. Like, what a snobby privileged statement. Like, just some privileged rich kid shit. The North Koreans literally had their society reduced to rubble by the Americans. Like literally reduced to total rubble. Like, I just don't think you have any respect in you at all. I think you're just a very disrespectful person, right? Who just has no respect whatsoever for what happened in North Korea. That literally every building, literally every institution, all of your tube TVs, all of your vehicles, everything was reduced to rubble by the United States. Complete ash, burnt to the ground. 20% of the population was murdered. 20% of the population was murdered by the Americans in North Korea. And you're bitching because it looks just kind of boring. Jesus fucking Christ, my man. Like, give your head a shake. Give your head a fucking shake. The fact that they have buildings, the fact that they have those tube TVs, the fact that they have those cars, the fact that they have those streets, the fact that they have infrastructure and have dams and built back, the fact that they have a society in North Korea at all after what happened is a fucking goddamn miracle. And you kind of turning up your snobby little privileged nose at it and being like, just looks kind of boring, is babyish. It's something a little baby would say. Just a little childish baby. So fucking grow up. Just fucking grow up. Stop acting as an apologist for empire. Acknowledge that when you burn things to the ground, it takes a minute to build them back. Like, it's a fucking miracle. If that happened here in America, if a town in America got reduced to rubble, oh, hey, we actually have exactly that example. We have exactly this fucking example. Right? I've met lots of people from Brazil. You people are very privileged. When you get rich people from Brazil, the rich people from Brazil are the worst. Because you're the guys that are looking at the poverty right in front of you with this snide dismissiveness. Thinking, they just need to do better. Like, unlike American wealth, right? Who have just detached from it entirely. You see it. It's right in front of you, and you don't give a fuck. Yeah, here's what you get when you gotta work to survive. Yeah, Jesus fuck. I get lots of Brazilians in here talking the way that you talk. Fucking privileged, stuck-up kids. Do you think that once Trump is elected, we will really see an influx of American refugees to Canada? Yeah, actually, I think I do. I think that actually happens. I think it like America is it's imploding, right? And that's true whether or not Trump is in office or not. Like to me, the major crisis that Trump brings with him is the empowerment of Nazis. I think it was Compton. You said at one point that it's what, like, we know where the leader of the Ku Klux Klan lives, and we know his name and we know who he is, and he just walks around, he's a normal dude, right? Living his life, organizing his weird little Ku Klux Klan, right? And we know where he is, right? Like, that's wild. That's completely wild to me. Yeah. Just Google Streets of Philadelphia, Kensington Ave documentary to see the destruction of America without being bombed. Yeah. I don't think I care to see it. Okay, so now here comes the pivot from Eduardo. Mr. Brazilian. Did you know the suicide rate in modern day Russia and ex-Soviet republics and socialist country tend to be very high? So? Like, we're not post-communists here. Like, that to me is just a complete and total defense of communism. Yeah, post-communist capitalist societies have high suicide rates. Did you know that in the capitalist countries where we live right now, the number 3 cause of death, and I think it is actually the number 2 cause of death amongst people in my age bracket, is suicide? Did you know that the number 1 cause of death for veterans is suicide in capitalist countries? Yeah, it sounds like capitalism's not working out so well, right? We're not post-communists. We're not proto-capitalists. Like, yeah, it turns out when you abandon communism, it causes a lot of problems for people, and then they commit suicide. Marcus, good to see you. Midwest USA has temperate climate and houses for $150K. I don't think I can afford a house in Canada with a winter I could survive. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've already had a big conversation about the housing market. Should we expect those up there to solve the climate crisis? And more importantly, can they? No. No. Yeah, what the shit? Unaliving goes up during neoliberal economic shock therapy? No fucking way. Yeah. It turns out that when capitalists come into countries and do their neoliberal shock therapy, that it's horrible for everyone. Right? Big fucking shocker. Like, like the mental gymnastics, man. The mental gymnastics that goes on in amongst these capitalists, amongst these like simping capitalists. Like, let's just ignore the devastation that's coming out of the West. Just ignore the complete decimation, the total rebelization of the society, right? Like literally like sending in troops, bombing campaigns, and they're very open about it, right? Nixon and Kissinger and these guys were extremely open about it. They were literally publishing articles talking about how they were going to decimate these countries to staunch the spread of communism. The McCarthy period was real. Like, and the response is like, I don't know, they're kind of boring. Like, oh my fucking Christ on a cracker, man. Like, just the banality of it all. Just the like, like, for fucking sakes. Yeah, Danarchist, I've contemplated suicide and I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's because of the capitalist paywall. It's crushing me under its boot. Yeah. Like it's so clearly in front of us. Like this is the reality of what is actually going on in the society, right? Is that there are people on the inside of the wall and there are people on the outside of the wall, right? I rather like this paywall language, right? And if you're on the inside of the wall, then you sort of live in this kind of dim-witted haze where you don't have any idea what's going on outside of the wall. And you create these sort of banal, odd justifications for why people outside the wall should live in the way that they do. Right? And there's never, ever, ever a contemplation for why does the wall exist in the first place. And it's just every single time I talk to these people who are pro-capitalist, it's so very obvious that they do not give a fuck about what is happening in the world at all. Even a fucking little bit. Like, even a fucking little tiny bit. Like, imagine looking at a country that literally was reduced to fucking rubble. Literally within living memory. There are people walking around right now who remember not just experiencing it, but doing it. Like literally reducing that country to rubble. And now it's clean, it's safe, the buildings are built. You would never know that it was reduced to rubble. And your criticism of it is that it looks a little boring. Fuck right off. Like, fuck right off. What a fucking, like, you probably got your dick in your hand and a burger in the other hand, smoking a marijuana doob while watching porn off in the corner while you're saying it. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. like, just the most banal, grotesque shit. Do you think it's possible for capitalist countries to live well without imperialism? That is actually an interesting question, Eduardo. I'll give you that. That's an interesting question. The answer is, of course, no. That capitalism thrives on what I've come to call the 4X principle. And yes, I'm stealing this from 4X games, but it's absolutely the truth. Explore, expand, exterminate, extract. That's the 4X principle of capitalism. And if you don't explore, expand, exterminate, and extract, then you begin to do that to your own people. Because that is how capitalism actually consumes and actually builds up its own internal power. Right? That what begins to happen, so if you're not going to a foreign nation, if you're not exploring and expanding and exterminating and extracting a foreign nation, right? well, then you need to steadily build a wall in your own society to separate the rich and the poor, and you're extracting from the poor, right? So if you don't have a foreign power in order to extract from, then you have to extract from your own society. And lo and behold, your own society won't tolerate that for very long. Literally the only way capitalist societies have managed to continue forward peacefully is by having colonies that the imperial core, that the core cannot see or interact with and does not report on, where they extract wealth and then distribute that to a minor degree through a system of wage slavery into the core, right? So people work for food and shelter, and they also get to see Marvel movies and eat Big Macs, right? But eventually, the colonies go away. They declare their independence. The colonizers lose imperial control. And so the imperialists, the capitalists, turn to their own populace and begin to do what they were doing to the colonies. And we won't put up with that, right? Or if we do, it's just a pathetic life. But you are aware that, for example, you will live much poorer in socialism, right? There's just no evidence for this. Like, there's literally no evidence for this. Every single time socialism and communism has been done, it has been to the benefit of its own society. And it's explicitly true. I highly advise that you read Michael Parenti's Black Shirts and Reds. He goes through this very clearly. That you can watch many of his lectures are on YouTube right now. That's Michael Parenti. And he just goes through and says communism did work. People say that communism never works, but communism did work when you look at the numbers. Got a guy named Lightcracker. What's wrong? Yeah. Yeah, Western civilization. I tend to agree with that, my man, but people seem to believe that there is such a thing. If you look up in Google how many Earths you would need if everybody lived like an American standard. Oh, American standard is your idea. Oh, okay. So fat, gross, greedy, stuffing their face with Big Macs, grotesque. So if everybody wanted to be grotesque, yeah, like, I agree. If everybody wanted to be just this grotesque idea of what wealth should look like, sure. Communist is fine until you add people, which is odd because that's what makes it work. It's just an odd thing to say. Like, again, like, you can read Michael Parenti's Black Shirts and Reds. You can go take a look. Communism works. And it works because of the people. Right? Like these myths that are perpetuated. You know what I find so crazy about these conversations? You know what I find so fucking crazy about these conversations, guys? Is like, many of you believe the stupidest, craziest shit that exists. There are aliens. The Earth is flat. The Illuminati is controlling everything. There's a mass conspiracy theory to hide everything that exists in all planes of reality, that there's an alternative existence and all, and the government is lying to you about it. The government is lying to you. The system is lying to you. They want you to believe that the Earth is round. They want you to believe that there's no aliens, to control your mind and control this kind of stuff. But if you say, hey, do you think rich people might be doing the same thing to their own workers who they benefit from? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, do you think the system of capital might be lying about its primary antagonist, which is communism? Blah, 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 blah. That's what's so fucking wild to me about this whole conversation. You guys are willing to believe that the capitalists and the system of capital and the government and the electoral system is totally lying to you when it comes to the shape of the planet. But when it comes to, like, whether or not we should share food with one another, communism always fails every single time. I believe that because the government said so. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, no shit, unaliving would go up. The shocking disillusion of it all, yeah. If the USSR was to come back, guess who's immigrating? Yeah, the Russians got a real taste of the free market, yeah. No wonder they miss the predictable and modest stability of a socialist system, yeah. It won't be the USSR, it'll be whatever BRICS becomes, unless BRICS ends up imperialist after all. Totally possible. Yeah. Yep. Install a friendly pro-capitalist fascist leader. Dumb down and deceive the populace. Enslave the masses through wage slavery and austerity policies. Yeah. Yep. Look at Cuba, because stood up to the U.S. empire since '59, hasn't blinked. Oh, did that Epstein document get released? That's actually the biggest news. We should take a look at that. Jeffree Epstein list of names released. I know that I saw a news article that said that they were going to do it, but I didn't see when they were going to do it. Here's your American capitalism, by the way, dude. This is the high quality of life. Yeah, we've got set to be released, right? So they haven't actually been released yet. I've got set to be released, right? A U.S. court expected on Wednesday, that's today, to start revealing the names of dozens of people with ties to the deceased financier Jeffree Epstein. Dozens of women, yeah, blah, blah, blah. More than 50 of the names have already been made public. And that's people like Oprah, by the way. Like, fucking Oprah has ties to this guy. Some people were friendly. Britain's Prince Andrew, former Barclays CEO Joe Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, where Stanley also worked, Deutsche Bank, have paid $365 million to settle accusations they turned a blind eye. Prince Andrew has been stripped with most of his royal titles. Yeah, you'll notice that none of these guys are in jail, right? Oh, you mean I only have to spend 1/10 of a percentage point of an hour's earnings in order to make these rape charges go away? Oh, okay. I guess that's just the cost of raping children. ABC News said former President Bill Clinton would also be among those named. Epstein's former pilot has testified that Clinton flew on Epstein's plane several times. Old news here. Right? The fact that Bill Clinton is not in jail, right? Or not even facing a charge. Like, not even a trial. Another name that could surface is Jean-Luc Brunel, a modeling agent. Well, he died in France, so who gives a fuck? Other names expected, former Epstein employees, several other people. Yeah, there's like... I hate articles like this because they're like, there's news of news. News of news. They were released this evening. What should I search, my man? 48 minutes ago. Here we go. CNN. Because, like, to me, this is, like, the dark imperial heart, right? Like, this is something that we should be discussing really, really widely. Jeffree Epstein documents unsealed. Like, this is giving you a piercing veil into what the system of capital actually is, right? This is the system of capital. This is what it produces. Here's your capitalist innovation. This is what people like this Eduardo guy are defending, right? Oh, socialism looks so boring. Capitalism's much more exciting. You get to rape children. Hundreds of pages of unsealed documents from a lawsuit connected to accused sex trafficker Jeffree Epstein were publicly released on Wednesday. The documents are expected to include nearly 200 names, including blah, blah, blah. This is the first set of documents to be unsealed, blue, blue, blue. More are expected. CNN is now reviewing the documents. The documents, blah, blah, blah. Epstein's, blue, blue, blue. Okay, so they were released. Documents released. We're looking into it. List of alleged associates of Jeffree Epstein. Who are the newly revealed? There we go. This is what we're looking for. Like, for fuck's sake, like, just literally show me the document. Like, this is what's so fucking annoying about these hacks. About these losers from, like, the New York Times and CNN and LA Times and all these places, right? They could literally just take the document, put it on the page, print it. They could. It'd be easy. It would take them 2 seconds. Right? Click, 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 download, upload, print, send. It would be easy to do. It would take less than an hour. It would take less than half an hour to do. Why don't they do that? I can't imagine why they wouldn't do that. I can't imagine why they would protect themselves. Who are the newly revealed Jeffree Epstein associates? Because the system of capital exists and the system of corporate media exists to protect the powerful. That's what they're doing. So fucking annoying. Just show us the fucking document. Who are the newly revealed Jeffree Epstein associates? Thanks to court filings and news reports from the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and others, the list of prominent people who are associated with Jeffree Epstein continues to grow. Blah, blah, blah. Where's the document? In the spring of I feel like this is what it's like when you're looking up like a recipe online, right? How to cook bread, or ingredients for chili. You find a chili recipe. Click. When I was a lad in Tuscany, growing up in the rolling hills, like. Fucking just show me the goddamn thing. Get your fucking capitalist innovation out of here, okay? Like we need them to stay on the page for 30 seconds before the ad revenue will actually count towards our configuration thing. So make sure that they have to spend at least 30 seconds on the page sifting around, man. Blah, 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 blah. Capitalist innovation. Okay, for fuck's sake. All the recently revealed Epstein associates only took like, Okay. Vera Wang. The designer was one of the people listed on Epstein's schedules after 2008. Some of the victims who the journal spoke to said Epstein had used Wang's name while leading the victims to believe he would help them with their fashion careers. So this guy was in the fashion industry, pilfering on fashion models, which is why Naomi Campbell, right? America's Next Top Model. The model's name, right? The Ukrainian model said that she had attended a 2010 event for Naomi Campbell in Paris when Epstein spotted her, sent a Russian woman to talk to her. So this guy was in the fashion industry, absolutely being a predator, right? Oh, the former Norwegian prime minister. The Scandinavian model is the greatest model, you guys. The Scandinavian model, that's capitalism working right there. Social democracy. That's really the way that we should be doing things for sure. What we can do is negotiate with the capitalists, and the capitalists will be nice about it and make sure that everybody has a nice time while they're here, right? The Norwegian model shows that that's the case. It certainly wasn't erected because they were threatened by communists during the communist revolution. No, it's happened because capitalists are actually nice, really. They certainly don't rape children like Norwegian prime minister. Thorbjorn Jagland. Fucking, that's a Norwegian name if I've ever seen it. Thorbjorn Jagland. Robert Kennedy Jr. Presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. said in a Fox News interview that he twice flew on Jeffree Epstein's plane. I was on it in 93, and I went to Florida with my wife and 2 children to visit my mom over Easter. My wife had some sort of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. Kennedy claimed that he was on the flight to Palm Beach, Florida for Easter, but Epstein's flight log from the early 90s showed that RFK Jr. and family members flew with Epstein and Maxwell from Terborto Airport in Florida, and then they flew back almost 2 months before Easter holiday. Yeah, so he's fucking lying. Like, he went to Epstein's island for 10 days to have sex with little girls. That's why they go there. That's the reason why you go to this place. Like, there's no other reason to go there. The very first thing that happens when you arrive at Jeffree Epstein's island is that you're confronted with a goddamn gigantic painting of Bill Clinton wearing Monica Lewinsky's dress. Like, they were raping people there. It's very clear that that's the case. And if you went there thinking, that's just a normal place, then you're too stupid to be in the discourse. So you get to pick. Are you too stupid to be trustworthy, or are you a child raper? Pick one. Those are your only 2 options. Sergey Brin, Google co-founder. According to a court filing, Epstein advised Brin from 2004 to 2007, including guidance on how to set up a tax shelter, a tax saving trust for Brin's kids called a grantor retained annuity trust, with bankers at JP Morgan Chase. Brin had become a client of the bank. Epstein helped billionaire and Apollo. Look, when did Epstein go to jail the first time? for being a sex trafficker and a child rapist. Jeffree Epstein when did he go to jail the first time? Right? Like, I think the thing that's so damning about this whole thing is that he went to jail, first faced criminal charges in 2006. Like, according to the court filing, Epstein advised Brin so while he is going through the court proceedings for raping children in the first place, Google co-founder's just like, yeah, here's a good guy that we should definitely keep around. We should definitely keep around sex trafficker and child rapist Jeffree Epstein. He's a useful resource, you know. We shouldn't judge people based on how many children they rape. Cecile Dijon, former First Lady of the U.S. Virgin Islands. The Wall Street Journal reports that according to court filings made by J.P. Morgan Chase in response to the civil suit brought against the bank by the U.S. Virgin Islands, she allegedly began working for Epstein starting in 2000 and continued working for him when her husband, Jean Dijon, was serving as governor of the U.S. territory from 2007 to 2015. So, like, literally he is in jail. And she's working for him. Dijon helped get visas for several alleged victims of Epstein. J.P. Morgan said in court filings, she connected one woman to a local immigration lawyer and worked to get other student visas by arranging special classes for them. Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister. Who's shocked? Who's shocked? Genocidal maniacs also rape children. Who's shocked? Who's shocked? Not me, not me. Certainly not me. That's my Who's Shocked song. You're welcome. Applause. Pause for applause. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Ha 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 ha! Bill Gates. Boo-ba-doo-boo. Boo-ba-doo-boo, boo-ba-doo-boo, boo-boo-boo-boo, ba-da-ba-doo-ba-doo, boo-boo-boo-boo, ba-da-ba-doo-boo-boo-boo-boo. The connection between Epstein and Gates has been well known for years. But in late May, the Journal published a revelatory new story on their relationship. The paper reported that Gates had an affair with a bridge player named Mila Antonova in the early 2010s, and that Epstein attempted to leverage his knowledge of the situation against the Microsoft co-founder. Okay, so just infidelity, not child rape. By Antonova's account, Gates is an avid bridge player. I love that in articles where we are condemning these guys for raping children, they're also, like, pumping them up. Yeah, Bill Gates, what a fucking great bridge player. Holy shit. He's like the greatest bridge player you're ever going to see. Yeah, he just loves to play a good game of bridge and then go have sex with a little girl. Had met her at a tournament in 2010 while Gates was still married to his now ex-wife, Melinda. Antonova later sought money to fund a startup that would help people learn the game online. Boris Nikolic, a friend and then scientific advisor to Gates, introduced Antonova to Epstein in 2013. Like almost a full decade after Epstein has been in jail for sex trafficking and raping children in the first place. Hey, Bill Gates, do you want to meet a pedophile? Meet pedophile Jeffree Epstein, who's already done jail time. Epstein didn't agree to fund the venture, but did pay for Antonova to go to software coding school. Then, in 2017, well after the Gates-Antonova relationship had ended, Epstein reportedly... You know what, man? I gotta tell you, that's what's missing from all of this. What's missing from all of this reporting is just the simple statement that, like, Jeffree Epstein was, like, a well-known rapist and sex trafficker at this point. He had already been in jail, right? It had already happened. He had already spent 2 years in jail for it, where he got a little slap on the wrist because his buddies gave him a sweetheart deal. And they all swept it under the table, and we were all supposed to be like, oh yeah, it's totally normal that this guy exists. Epstein reportedly emailed Gates requesting that he reimbursed him for the cost of the schooling. That message came shortly after Gates rebuffed Epstein's effort, blah, blah, blah. I just don't give a fuck about... Bill Gates reportedly never paid Epstein. Yeah, so the story is that Bill Gates, he stiffed Epstein. What a great guy. I had no idea that he was a criminal or had any ulterior motive. Antonova told the Journal of Epstein, I just thought he was a successful businessman and wanted to help. Nobody in my organization even Googled this guy. Nobody ever, anywhere, at any time, ever looked up who this guy was or took a look at the many charges that he went to fucking jail for. Like, what the fuck? The level of stupidity that the rich assume that we must have. And they keep doing this. When the liberals honored a Nazi in the halls of Parliament, their whole defense was, oopsie-doo. Nobody checked to see if this guy was a Nazi. Oopsie-doo. And now here's this lady being like, we didn't know. How could we have possibly known that he already spent time in prison? I don't have an assistant who knows how to use Google, even though I myself am trying to launch an online account. Ha 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 ha. Like fucking... I am disgusted with Epstein and what he did, which is why I reached out to him and wanted his help. His crimes were despicable. I never saw anything like his illegal behavior. My heart goes out to his victims and their families, I say, reading from this thing that my lawyer says I should read. Like, who believes this shit? Who's sitting there being like, oh, she's just a victim of circumstance. She was just reaching out trying to build a local bridge club on the online internets. And she didn't know, she didn't do a single Google search on this guy to find out that he'd already done jail time as a sex trafficker and a pedophile. This billionaire heiress of a billionaire fortune has no aides whose job it is whatsoever to actually find out who are the people that she's talking to. Absolutely, that's the case. That makes a lot of sense. Like, literally, this woman would just be, like, in a bubble bath. Be like, Jeffree Epstein, enter. Like, come on. Like, how stupid are we here? Like, how dumb do we have to actually fucking be to buy into this? Right? To buy into this fucking shit. Bill Gates helps local slums in Rio. What a joke. This Eduardo guy is just jerking capital off. It's just unbelievable to watch. Like, you mean he exploits the poor in Rio, right? That he gives money to slumlords who then pocket that money and then exploit the need for shelter by the poor in Rio. That's what's actually going on. Leo Botstein, president of Bard College. Epstein had roughly 24 meetings scheduled with Botstein over the 4 years covered in the documents, mostly at his townhouse. I love that most of these stories are actually just an opportunity for the rich to be like, I didn't realize that the rapist was a rapist. Like, that's basically what we're seeing here, right? Is that it's not this article being like, hey, whoa, Bill Gates is connected to this. We should dig in deep and find out more about this connection. It's literally giving the opportunity. And you'll notice that the Bill Gates story actually ended up being more about this Antonova lady, right, than it was about Bill Gates himself. Like, they're providing cover. That's obviously what they're doing. They're obviously providing cover for these rich cocksuckers. They're not digging in deep. They're not doing any exploration whatsoever. And they're using this article as an opportunity for the rich to be like, oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I couldn't possibly have realized what was going on. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Just refresh the page, my man. Just refresh it. Hit the refresh button. Yeah, I was hoping for something like this. William Burns, director of the CIA. The documents indicate that Epstein had 3 scheduled meetings in 2014 with Burns, who was at that point the Deputy Secretary of State in the Obama administration. They met both in Washington, D.C. and New York, per the Journal. A lunch was planned that August at the office of law firm Steptoe and Johnston in Washington. Epstein scheduled 2 evening appointments that September with Mr. Burns at his townhouse, the documents show. After one of the scheduled meetings, Epstein planned for his driver to take Mr. Burns to the airport. The longtime diplomat left the State Department in October of that year and became president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, where he remained until President Biden nominated Burns to run the CIA in 2021. CIA spokesperson Tammy Cooperman Thorpe released a statement to the Journal denying Burns had any kind of relationship with Epstein. The intelligence director of the CIA, at that time the Deputy Secretary of State in the Obama administration. In 2014, years after he had already done jail time for sex trafficking and pedophilia, had no idea. Didn't know. The director did not know anything about him, other than he was introduced as an expert in the financial service sector and offered general advice on transition to the private sector. She said they had no relationship. Like, these people think that we are desperately gullible. These people think that we are desperately gullible to buy that the literal deputy, like the Deputy Secretary of State, like, that makes him like the 3rd person in charge, right? Like, something happens to Obama. It's like Obama goes down, the vice president, so it would have been Biden. Biden goes down, it's the Secretary of State. Secretary of State goes down, it's the Deputy Secretary of State. So he's like the 4th in charge, right? Can't get hold of these 3 guys. Here's the guy that runs the fucking country. Nobody on his staff, nobody in the Obama administration, nobody on the Secret Service, nobody in the CIA, nobody in any organization anywhere gave this guy a little card that said, hey, this is who Jeffrey Epstein is. Nobody? Oh, okay. Believable. Very extremely believable story that you guys are telling here. Noam Chomsky. According to the documents, Epstein arranged several meetings with Chomsky in 2015 and 2016 when he was teaching at MIT, where Epstein had donated hundreds of thousands of dollars. The scheduled meetings include a gathering of academics, as well as a flight with Epstein aboard his private jet to New York to have dinner at his townhouse with film director Woody Allen and his wife, Soon-Yi Previn. When the Journal asked Chomsky about the meetings, the 94-year-old replied in an email that his first response is that this is none of your business, or anyone's. Second is that I knew him and we met occasionally. Chomsky said he and Epstein discussed politics and academics, and if there was a flight, which I doubt, it would have been from Boston to New York, 30 minutes. I'm unaware of the principle that requires that I inform you about an evening spent with a great artist. What was known about Jeffrey Epstein was that he had been convicted of a crime and had served his sentence, Chomsky told the Journal. According to U.S. laws and norms, that yields a clean slate. He also said Epstein arranged for him to meet Barack so they could talk about Israel's policies with regard to Palestine issues and the international arena. A follow-up report from the Journal showed that Chomsky received a transfer of around $270,000 from an account linked to Epstein in March 2018. My late wife died 15 years ago after a long illness. We paid no attention to financial issues, Chomsky explained by email. We asked Epstein for advice. The simplest way seemed to be to transfer funds from one account in my name to another by way of his office. Like, this guy is just getting his fingers in every pie, right? He's just getting everywhere all the time. it does sort of open up Chomsky to pretty heavy criticism, right? Opens up Chomsky to some pretty heavy criticism. I suspect this has been humanity's greatest struggle that has never been conquered yet. What, Jeffrey Epstein? You think Jeffrey Epstein? Eduardo wants to do the Nordic stuff. But in Nordics, they have housing for all policy, healthcare for all policy, public parks for all policies, even some money to study in university. Is this capitalism? No, they don't even call it capitalism. They call it social democracy. But how was it won? Right? It wasn't won by capitalists. It wasn't won by capitalism. It was won because there was a communist revolution happening on their border. And there were communists within these countries pushing the capitalists forward, saying we should have a revolution ourselves. And so what did the capitalists do? They capitulated. They gave the public things that they wanted and said, please don't overthrow us. Let us keep control of the means of production. Right? And the same thing happened in America, by the way. That's what the New Deal was. Right? That's what the New Deal was. And we can see what the capitalists will do. They'll regress it. They'll pull it back. They'll destroy it, and they'll do that in Sweden and Norway and all these places, right? They'll do it there too, right? They just haven't been able to so far. Why? Because of the communists and the socialists and the trade unionists. That's why. So is it capitalism? Fucking no. That the success that you're talking about in those countries is the antithesis of capitalist. It's happening in spite of capitalism, not because of it. Yeah. The Nordics have a small anarchist left town. Yeah. Terje Rod Larson, noted ex-diplomat. Joshua Cooper Ramo, FedEx board member. Ariane de Rothschild, chairwoman of Edmond de Rothschild Group. In 2019, the private Swiss bank Edmond de Rothschild Group falsely claimed and it and its chairwoman, Ariane de Rothschild, had no ties to Epstein. Miss de Rothschild, who married into the famous banking family, had more than a dozen meetings with Epstein. He sought her help with staffing and furnishings, as well as discussed business deals with her, according to the documents. In September 2013, Epstein asked Mrs. de Rothschild in an email for help finding a new assistant. Female, multilingual, organized, I'll ask around, she said. She bought nearly $1 million worth of auction items on Epstein's behalf in 2000. Who is this fucking guy? Like, who is this fucking guy? Like, this guy is literally walking around, noted, already a prosecuted, went to jail for sex trafficking and child rape, pedophilia, right? Already has happened, and billionaires are like, this is a good guy to keep around. We're just gonna keep going around. Ugh. Yeah, the people who have gamed the system won't let up, yeah, and have shown that they will off you if you ever try to stop them. This is what we're up against, yeah. And like, what's so crazy about the Jeffrey Epstein thing is that there's no indication that he was going to like turn state's evidence or something, right? Like, there was no indication that he was going to, like, I am more or less of the opinion, and this is basically what happened the first time he went to jail, right? I think that Epstein is of the mind, or was of the mind, that going to jail is part of the job, right? That part of his job and part of what it is that he is there to do is go to jail, right? He had already done it once, so he was going to do it again. Like, Catherine Rumler, Goldman Sachs general counsel. So we got the Rothschilds, right? We got the, why not Goldman Sachs, right? Lawrence Summer. Ties between Epstein and the ex-Treasury Secretary and Harvard president were already well known, but the journal provides more details about their connection. Though Harvard stopped accepting donations from Epstein after his 2008 conviction. So, first time the article's mentioned it, although to be fair, I didn't read the first part of the article because I wanted to see the names. Name names. Have you, did you or did you not hang out with Jeffrey Epstein? Name names. Dude, I would love like a McCarthy style trial. They should do it. They should get Lawrence Summers, Noam Chomsky, Bill Gates, the Rothschilds, the Goldman Sachs, Bill Clinton. They should haul them in front of a Senate commission, right? Have Lauren Boebert run it. The Boebert Commission, right? When did you hang out with Jeffrey Epstein? Tell me everything you know about Jeffrey Epstein. Who were you with when you went and hung out with Jeffrey Epstein? Name names. Let's go. I'd be down. I would live stream the shit out of that. I would watch the shit out of that. The paper uncovered an email Summers sent to Epstein in 2014 in which he asked the financier's advice on how to raise money for a nonprofit poetry initiative spearheaded by his wife. I love that everything is so wholesome. Like, I'm just looking to spearhead a poetry initiative. Make sure you bring the little girls. I need small-scale philanthropy advice. My life will be better if I raise $1 million for Lisa. Mostly it will go to make a PBS series and for teacher training. Ideas? It's just so crazy that the only thing that they can dig up is Epstein being like, oh, you should definitely do that. That'll definitely enrich the lives of everyone around you. So wholesome and lovely. It's just like the only information they seem to be able to find about this guy is him just being like, from fucking like Full House. He's just like a Full House character coming in and everybody being like, oh, Peter, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. Epstein. You want to go where everybody fucks girls. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You want to be where people see. Like, it's just so odd that this is being reported as a so like wholesomely. Eduardo doesn't want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein for some reason. Do you believe social democracy is a step to socialism? And if the world as a whole becomes socialist democracy, is it easier to reach communism? The communists would actually argue that it is possible that, like, it not only possible but necessary, that you have to transition through socialism to become communist, that you can't just flip a switch and be communists, that you have to go through a social period. So there is an argument from the social democrats that that is what they're doing, but I don't see it. I think that that the social democrats have lost sight of what the goal is, that they've become complacent, and that the capitalists have corrupted them, and they're about to go through a period of regression. Peter Thiel, fucking the vampiric necromancer who wants to live forever. The New York Times reports that according to Epstein's scheduling records, Epstein had several meetings with the PayPal co-founder. Like, it also reports Epstein also scheduled meetings between Thiel himself and the Russian ambassador to the United Nations. I was rather naive, Thiel said of the 2016 meeting. I didn't think enough of what Epstein's agenda might have been. Like, Mr. Thiel, we have a meeting for you here with a Jeffrey Epstein. He's a convicted sex trafficker and a pedophile, and he'd like to talk to you about your philanthropy efforts. No? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll make sure to cancel that meeting. Like, why are you guys meeting with pedophiles? Why is it that a pedophile is showing up on your radar and you're being like, send him in. I definitely want to have a robust meeting with this well-known and well-regarded pedophile. Sit down, pedophile. Sex trafficker who is still a pedophile and is still doing sex trafficking, who has a whole island that he invites people to. Tom Barak, close Trump ally and private equity manager. Tom Barak was friends with Epstein. They were close in South Florida. Leon Black, private equity giant relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was made, blah, blah, blah. Jess Staley, JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the world by market capitulation, has been in trouble for years and for its connection by Epstein. But over the past year, JP Morgan Chase has had to answer about how many people knew of their dealings with the alleged sex trafficker due to the U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit alleging the bank helped enable Epstein's operation. I like helped enable. You mean funded it. They funded his operation. Right? Where else are you going to go have sex with little girls, guys? Come on. Capitalists are going to do this. They're just going to do this shit. Prince Andrew. We all fucking know about Prince Andrew, and that's it. That's it. And I love that they even used a picture of him where he's like pensive. Like, yeah, if you could make sure that the picture that we get of Jeffrey Epstein is the sexy one. Can we make sure we get a nice sexy picture of Jeffrey Epstein looking smoldering, thoughtful, right? There's a lot going on there, right? There's a lot going on there. We got to make sure that we capture the essence of the man, Jeffrey Epstein. Fuck, just fucking get the fuck right out of here, man. It's fucking annoying. Yeah, Eminem, Tom Hanks. Yeah. In the future, everybody will be Onis. Like, Eduardo, my man, it sounds to me like you're suddenly a communist. Because that's like the whole point of communism, is to eliminate the capitalist class by ensuring that everybody has ownership, that everybody owns the work that they do, and everybody is invested in the asset class, right? Like that's the whole point. Yep. Eminem, Tom Hanks, Oprah, another good one. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, right? I thought I heard Trudeau was on there. That was actually a scam. That was a spoof. That was not real. I myself was taken in when that first went around, and when I double checked it and vetted it, because somebody who's no longer around, but they challenged that. And so on stream, I double checked it and vetted it myself, and it was not true. So we can criticize Justin Trudeau for anything, but we can't criticize him for this. So here's your system of capital at work, my man. This is it. This is the system of capital. Ba-doop boop boop. Ba-doop boop boop. Ba-doop boop 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 boop. Ba-doop boop boop. Ba-doop boop boop. Ba-doop boop 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 boop. Wah. Like literally the current director of the CIA. Has a new bookshelf. Why people felt like they were working for this for the state and not for themselves in case of socialism before. I don't know that I fully understand. So what can happen, and what anarchists are very critical of communists for this, I think, and there's something to it, which is that Lenin wrote that what is required after the communist revolution, after the communists take power, is that the communists rule through state authority and through state power. That it's the communists that rule through state power, and that you have a period of state capitalism, that and that's necessary. That's what Lenin would write. And so like Lenin would look at something like the social democracies of Europe and say like, okay, that's step one. Okay, if you are on the path towards communism, state capitalism would be step one. You gotta keep moving though, right? Keep moving. Keep moving. We won't be able to consume the way we do nowadays if we become socialist. We would become rather much poor. I mean, like, consume the way we do nowadays. Like, right now we're so fucking fat and gluttonous, my man. Like, you keep talking about how, like, oh, God, we how can we keep eating all of the food? It's like, maybe we shouldn't be such fat, like, losers. Maybe we shouldn't just be constantly jamming donuts into our faces, right? Like, maybe that's a problem, right? Maybe that's a fucking problem that we're such fat asses. Get rid of this one. You know what? Let's listen to some Michael Parenti, just for some fun. Here, let me throw on my good old Michael Parenti. I always forget how much I love listening to this guy, but he's like really wonderful. Hold on. I was gonna make sure these are actually. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Of the capitalist state, I argue, it's seldom mentioned. It consists of preventing the capitalist system from devouring itself, to protect capitalism from the capitalists, to restrain the self-devouring beast, because that's what it is. It eats everything in sight, including its own feet and its own tail, and then its own body, you see. An economy dedicated to speed-ups and wage cuts, to making workers produce more and more for less and less, is always in danger of a crash. To maximize profits, wages must be kept down. But someone has to buy the goods and services being produced. For that, wages must be kept up, or you got to be paying out some wages. There's a chronic tendency, as we're seeing today, toward overproduction of private sector goods and services and underconsumption of necessities by the working populace. So what happens in a situation like this is that recessions, destabilizations, imbalances in it are the chronic condition. It's not a crisis. That's the natural condition of capitalism. Crises is the normal condition. Hardly 3 years after the Constitutional Convention ended in September of 1797 in Philadelphia came the recession of 1790. The country under the new Constitution wasn't even 3 years old, okay? And they had a recession. There was the panic of 1797. There was the recession of 1802 that went on to 1804. There was the depression of 1807 to 1810. There was about 20 more of these crises, panics, recessions in the 19th century. Most notably, the long depression of 1873 that went on to 1879, almost to 1880. 1890, 4 recessions in the 1890s, 1890, 93, 96. 1899, the big one. You know, that was a very troublesome. And what did we need? I tell you what we need. Our buddy, our boy Teddy Roosevelt told us. He said, this nation needs a war, any war. Yeah, pick it up out of this, you see, get it going. And that's exactly what they did. They picked a war, picked a fight with Spain, which was weak and had all these nice, ripe, low-hanging colonies, which the U.S. just ripped off. And
good old Michael Parenti, man. I just love how he spits the truth. I love this guy. Oh my God, this Eduardo guy. The crisis used to happen often before because those are times of war, instability, interventions. Nowadays, we found ways to keep going with some wars. We are more stable, peaceful. Yeah, what a fucking joke, my man. What a pathetic loser thing to say. I'm sorry, man, you're a total fucking loser. That's a fucking loser thing to say. The Americans are literally in the middle. Let's fucking pull up the map. Holy shit, dude. What a fucking dim-witted dumbass thing to say. What a fucking loser you are. I'm sorry, man. I'm not playing nice with you anymore. Fucking get the fuck out of here. America is in a war here, literally a genocide in Yemen, literally fucking a genocide right over here. Wars all throughout Africa, coups all throughout Africa, colonies all throughout Africa. Literally coups in Venezuela, Bolivia, Chile, coups in Brazil, funding a guy in Argentina to destroy the country on their behalf. Nicaragua, Guatemala, straight up bombing campaigns in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, North Korea that leveled the countries to rubble. A nuclear bombardment of Tokyo, of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. 2 nuclear bombardments in Japan, completely unwarranted, just to show the Russians that they would do it. And you're sitting there being like, yeah, we're peaceful. We're definitely the most peaceful people who've ever fucking existed in the fucking world, you dim-witted loser. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. That's true, but do you think there are less wars? You're just a very dumb person. Like, you're just a very, very dumb person. So, World War II. You know, the war that happened within living memory. Right? Like, I know people whose grandparents who lived through World War II. The war that happened within living memory. You know, with the fucking Nazis, right? The capitalists, the capitalist Nazis who took over and started going through all of Europe, blowing the place up. You know, a major fucking war that happened within fucking living memory. Right? My great-grandpa was sent to fight on the side of Germany. Yep. Tracks. Makes sense. Your grandpa was a fucking Nazi. That tracks, my man. Boy, does that ever track. So, we got the great-grandson of a fucking literal Nazi walking around being like, things are better now. Things are more peaceful now. As we literally pick up the rubble from this major catastrophe that happened within living memory, where the capitalists destroyed Eastern Europe, murdered 25 million Russians, right? 25 million Russians, dropped nuclear bombs on Japan, and then turned around and started carpet bombing Korea, literally divided the country in two, took over South Korea as a colony, did a bombing campaign on Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, went down to Indonesia and did a genocide in Indonesia, is constantly warring throughout the Philippines, blowing the shit out of the entire fucking region, releasing documents talking about how their plan to go to war with China is literally to destroy all their trade, pounding on the war drums about Taiwan now, even though since the 60s it's been understood. Hey, not to mention, oh yeah, all the fucking wars throughout the Middle East. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Oman, Egypt. The total destruction of Libya is one of the greatest atrocities of this century. You're standing there being like, things are so much more peaceful now. Yeah, maybe for you, right? Maybe for you, right? This just kid with his dick in his hand who thinks that we're such a peaceful people. Things are so much more peaceful now. Absolutely. Not if you're fucking living in Libya. What the Americans did to Libya is they took the most prosperous economy on the continent, the economy that was socializing in big and serious ways, and they literally went in there and destroyed it and fractured it to the point where there's slave trade still going on. Right? Like, you had a far-right government literally 2 years ago, dude. Well, you think Bolsonaro was a nice man? Think Bolsonaro was helpful for you guys? Yeah. Eduardo lives in a gated community, ignores the frivolous nearby that are so peaceful. Yeah. Like, if you never interact with reality, I mean, it's just so clear. Like, this is what the capitalists are doing. They just need to create enough of these detached people. Just enough of these people who have no fucking clue what's going on. So they'll just keep voting. Just keep voting. Right? Here's your burger. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Literally, the Americans are pounding the war drum right now. Like, for fuck's sake, Ukraine. Hey, did we forget about this major conflict that happened in Ukraine that the Americans created? Oh, hey, how about the outright overt crazed genocide that's happening in the Gaza Strip? Hey, I got a great video about this, by the way. Check this out. This is after South Africa has launched a lawsuit in the International Criminal Court against Israel for its genocide in Gaza. This is the response coming out of Israel.
South Africa has made itself criminally complicit with Hamas's campaign of genocide against our people. It shares culpability for the tragic loss of human life. The State of Israel will appear before the International Court of Justice at The Hague to dispel South Africa's absurd blood libel. How tragic that the rainbow nation that prides itself on fighting racism will be fighting pro bono for anti-Jewish racists. We have no doubt that after the Jewish state brings to justice the perpetrators of the bloodiest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, history will judge South Africa for abetting the modern heirs of the Nazis. We assure South Africa's leaders, history will judge you, and it will judge you without mercy.
Dude, we gotta watch this one again. This is unhinged.
Africa
This is absolutely unhinged and should reveal to you, like, the deep... Like, I keep finding these videos of just unhinged, demented Israelis. Like, these guys have lost their fucking mind.
South Africa has made itself criminally complicit.
Criminally complicit, right? The Israelis literally committing a genocide right in front of your eyes, but the people who are criminally complicit are the victims. Absolutely.
With Hamas's campaign of genocide.
The campaign of genocide against the Jews, right? The Palestinians. No electricity, no water, literally living in an open air concentration camp, but they're the ones committing the genocide. Got it.
Against our people. It shares culpability for the tragic loss of human life.
Culpability with the tragic loss of human life of those who dare fight back.
The State of Israel will appear before the International Court of Justice at The Hague to dispel South Africa's absurd blood libel.
Blood libel. Like, I hope that Israel loses this case so fucking bad. Yeah, I hope the ICC absolutely dismantles these people. I hope it happens. Like, I'm really looking forward to this. The fact that Israel, like, I love this actually. Like,
the International Court of Justice.
Like, they're saying that they're going. That's the best. Israel's gonna go, and they're gonna be fed a shit sandwich by the International Criminal Court. That the Hague is gonna say, you guys are fucking genocidal maniacs. Like, we hang you guys.
The State of Israel will appear before the International Court of Justice at The Hague to dispel South Africa's absurd blood libel. How tragic that the rainbow nation that prides itself on fighting racism will be fighting pro bono for anti-Jewish racists.
Like, what are you talking about, bro? like, do you think that maybe you're the bad guys? Right, listen to this sentence. Like, just listen. How tragic.
Blood libel.
Like, I'm going to read it myself. How tragic that the rainbow nation, right, that prides itself on fighting racism will be fighting pro bono, that's for free, for anti-Jewish racists. Like, do you maybe think that the reason why the rainbow nation, who prides itself on fighting against racism, is fighting against you is because you're the racist ones? You ever think that that might be the case?
Racists. We have no doubt that after the Jewish state brings to justice the perpetrators of the bloodiest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, history...
I love this phrase. The bloodiest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Because that's all that matters. That Jews died. End of story. History begins October 7th and not 1 second earlier.
We will judge South Africa for abetting the modern heirs of the Nazis. We assure...
do you support Hamas? Yes. I support Luke Skywalker and the rebellion against the Empire. Yes, I do.
South Africa's leaders. History will...
Like, I'm not one of these guys that's like, I stand against Hamas, but I support the Palestinian people. Hamas are freedom fighters, and they're fighting against Nazis. Kill as many Nazis as you can kill. Shoot them in the face as often as you can. Do it as often as you possibly can.
Will judge you, and it will judge you without mercy.
And it will judge you without mercy. My favorite part about this is that he might as well be talking to Israel. Right?
Leaders. History.
This is what's being said to Israel.
History will judge you, and it will judge you without mercy.
The TikTok thing right at the end is the best. Like, it will judge you without mercy. Perfect. Like, these people are crazed, man. I'm so looking forward to this story, by the way. I'm so looking forward to the International Criminal Court. I'm so looking forward to the Jews, to the Zionists standing in front of the International Criminal Court being like, it's them. It's them that are actually the genociders. They're the ones doing the genocide while we literally turn Gaza into rubble. Like, just yesterday I showed that clip where Gaza has essentially been reduced to rubble. Yeah, they're the genociders for sure. That's absolutely the truth. Blanca, I'm not going to read that comment. Funny, but we here at the Canadian Commie make a distinction between Judaism, Israelis, and Zionists. And we stand against Zionism. That's what we stand against. Just like Hamas and what says in the Hamas charter. We stand against Zionism. So I know what you're reaching for, but please do not dabble in anti-Semitism, okay? And I know that you're just trying to be jokey joke, okay? So, but thanks. Yeah. This is absolutely crazy. Times of Israel reports that Israeli officials have held clandestine talks with the African nation of Congo and several others for the potential acceptance of Gaza immigrants. Isn't that great? We're going to emigrate the Gazans to the Congo. Oh, Eduardo, the Hamas has killed 50,000 children. No, literally no evidence. The IDF itself steps down from that claim. Like, source, please. What's your source? What's your source for 50,000 children? What's your source? Can I get a source? What's your source? Oh, is that just something you said because you heard it from your Nazi grandfather or whatever? Like, source, please. What's your source? Kevin writes, how can any international court or organization forcibly change Israel's government? No, that can't happen. Guys, Eduardo, dude, you've just turned into like the greatest joke ever, my man. This is great. You can go to the Israeli government's website. That's what this guy just wrote. You guys. That's what this guy just wrote. He just wrote, Hamas has killed 50,000 people. I asked for a source, and his source is the people committing the genocide. The people committing the genocide in Gaza said that the people they're committing a genocide to were responsible for killing 50,000 children. Womp, 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 Yes. 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 Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so beautiful. Guys. Eduardo writes. Guys. But you truly think the Israeli government would lie? Oh, my sweet summer child. Oh, it's just so, like, just so... The Israeli government is serious and double-checked by the Americans. Oh, the Americans double-checked it. You guys, the Israelis said so. And they wouldn't lie. And if they did, then it would be the Americans who would say, no, Israel, that's untrue. It's not the case. And the Americans, bastion of truth tellers, wouldn't allow Israel to tell such a lie. Oh, man. Because Israel has never lied. And because America has never lied. Never in the history of America has there ever been any lie at all that has ever been told ever that should lead us to believe that the Americans are liars. Nope. Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, you guys. The Nairia testimony was 100% true. Absolutely. Osama bin Laden, completely and totally in Afghanistan. Mao's famine killed 500 billion people. The Holodomor. What else? What are some real good lies? Do you trust Iran dictatorship and Hamas compared to America and Israel? Yes. By a lot. By a significant amount. Like, it's not a comparison. Why? Because while Iran has difficulties, right? While Iran is going through a tough and tumultuous time, you know, what with the war here and the war here and the war over here, right? The war here, you know, the conflicts going on over in this region, the conflicts over here, right? I'd say that Iran is doing pretty good not collapsing inwardly, right? That it's keeping its borders stable as America comes in and assassinates its leadership, you know? Doing pretty decently for itself during a period of intense warfare surrounding it, right? Caused by who? The Americans. I just love this fucking Gulf of Tonkin, thank you. I just love this fucking idea that says America can lie itself into a war here, into a war here, into a war here, can destroy everything around this region, right? Literally, look at the map. Look at the map. Destroy everything around this region, but it's the country that they obviously want to destroy that is actually the one that's the bad guy. Get the fuck right out of here. Get the fuck right out of here. Get the fuck right out of here. You're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb. It's so dumb, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, dude. It's so fucking dumb. But don't you think that the region already fights a lot, even without America? They're just savages, they're fighting anyway. We have every reason to go in there. We're helping them, actually. We're helping them, actually, by going in there. They were just fighting savages anyway. Yeah, it certainly has nothing to do with the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire post-World War II. Right? Certainly has nothing to do with the destruction wrought by World War II thanks to the capitalists, right? Like, history doesn't exist. We don't need to know anything about it. They're just savage Muslims, right? We can do what we want. Wait, isn't this the same pro-Bolsonaro Brazilian who said McDonald's is better than mom and pop joints? I don't know if it's the same guy. Sorry, man. Just like, America wouldn't lie. America wouldn't lie. Oh. No, I don't I think it's a different guy we're talking about, Eduardo. Like, bro, look, Eduardo, I've taken a lot of shots at you, and you've been standing. You're like Rocky Balboa up in there, right? You're just like taking it and being like, and I'm like, Rocky, you're a bum. Stay down, Rocky, you're a bum. And you're just like, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna show him I got what it takes. Right? You're just taking the shots. But look, man. Like, I'm gonna level with you, right? I'm gonna level with you, like, man to man, right? If you are walking around in this conversation saying out loud to people that America and Israel wouldn't lie, it really is time for you to stop having opinions. Like, it really is. Like, it really is time for you to become inquisitive, to stop trusting whatever it is that you've been trusting. Because whatever it is that you've been trusting is obviously fake and phony bullshit. And it's so obvious. Like, it really is obvious. Like, I'm really here to encourage you, if anything, do not say to other people, America wouldn't lie, because it makes you sound stupid. Straight up. America is a fraudulent country that does nothing but lie. Everything that comes out of this country is a lie. They have an organization called the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, whose entire operation exists specifically to lie. That's what it is there to do. By its own admission. And it does so very, very, very well. So if you are going to enter this conversation and have a meaningful conversation about the nature of geopolitics, you have to begin with, yeah, obviously the Americans are lying. Obviously the Israelis are lying. And that's the reason why I do this channel, is to try to discern between what is false and what is true. And if somebody stands up and says, oh, the Americans said so, that's my source, I do not take that seriously. The Americans in recent history, in my lifetime, forget about in living memory, in my lifetime, the Americans have told lies that are so overwhelming and dramatic that if a friend were to tell you these lies, you would cut them out of your life that day. The Iraq lie alone, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that should be enough. That should be enough. The fact that George W. Bush has not been hung at The Hague already should tell you everything you need to know. Right? Like, wise up. I say it because America is a democracy. Yeah, I mean, America looks like a democracy. It doesn't really respond to its own people. There was a Princeton study recently that I could pull up for you if you like, that showed you that shows that the American electoral system does not respond to the electorate. Right? That the electorate actually has no influence on public policy. So, I mean, is that a democracy? I mean, it looks like one, right? But it's just theater. It's just a show, right? Like watching a WWE wrestling show and then believing that that's wrestling, right? That's actual fighting. When the Undertaker lifts that guy up and slams him on the ground or does a tombstone or whatever, that's what real fighting is right there. That's real fighting. Yeah. Nope. It's a show. It's theater. Isn't America where democracy started? And Europe with America tends to be pioneers of democracy. Hey, my man, Eduardo, I really do got to ask, and I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just trying to get my feet planted on something here. How old are you, bud? Like actually. Like I'm not trying to be mean. I think I'm through being mean to you because I think that there's something else going on here. Like, how old are you? Actually. 22. Okay. Yeah. $22. Yeah, okay. All right. The things that you believe about the West and about Western capital are wildly false. Wildly false. In major and dramatic ways. That I don't think I can get into a position where I can say that it's your fault anymore, given the scale of it. That when I when I was your age, I believed that Jesus Christ was coming back at any moment. And I feel like that's the scale and that's the level of how false your belief system is. That the United States has the appearance of democracy. They put on a theatrical performance, a ritual, if you like, where everybody goes and gets to vote for the blue team or the red team. But both teams work for capital, and neither team responds to the electorate. We literally have Princeton studies that I could show you if you like, that says explicitly that public policy is not influenced by the voters. So in no way is it a democracy. Europe has a similar thing going on. That when societies improve, it has almost nothing to do with the electoral system and everything to do with the halls of power being surrounded by communists, socialists, and trade unionists calling for revolution. It has everything to do with mass-scale strikes. It has everything to do with labor movements. It has almost nothing to do with going to a ballot box and putting a paper in a ballot box. It's almost irrelevant who is actually in that seat. Because every single leader is going to respond to 1 million people outside their door calling for a revolution. Which is the only time that any society anywhere at any time in any capitalist structure has ever actually advanced. The United States tells dramatic, overwhelming, enormous lies. Lies that are extremely verifiable. Lies that are very obvious. And I think that you got to get your feet planted on that and start moving from that position. I'll give you a very, very clear example. You're 22, so this happened before you were even born. So I think it makes sense that you don't respect the reality of this existence. I'm going to tell you this story, and I want you to plant your understanding of America on this story. In 2001, September 11th, 9/11 happens. Right? The Twin Towers are hit. America is losing its mind. It earns the sympathy from the entire world, having experienced this deep tragedy. The Bush administration garners that sympathy and uses that sympathy in order to launch an invasion on a country that had absolutely nothing to do with it. Predicated entirely on the fabricated and phony lie, which they knew was fabricated and they knew was phony, that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. This lie, widely considered across the Muslim world as a crusade, because George W. Bush called it a crusade, has disrupted this region and murdered millions of people. The war has now expanded into 7 and more other countries and has destroyed millions upon millions and millions and millions of lives, predicated entirely on a overwhelming lie. I'm telling you, Eduardo, if you are saying those things out loud, you are so deep down the hole. America goes and arrives in a mission to protect the world from further destruction. That is the same logic that the colonialists used when they were invading America, when they were committing a genocide against the First Nations people, that when they were enslaving the African continent, that it's to their benefit. That's what you're saying there. That it's right that America should lie and go into the Middle East and destroy it because it's for their benefit. This is the logic of a slaver. This is the slaver's mindset. How do I know? Because it's what the slavers said. So you cannot stand in front of me and tell me that America wouldn't lie, because we know they do. We have all of the evidence in the world to show that they do. Nor can you stand in front of me and make the argument that it's for the benefit of the people that they invade. We have all of the evidence in the world to show that it isn't true. Primarily, that the people who are getting invaded don't want them to be there and want them to leave. And the moment they can, they throw them out. So America lies, invades countries to exploit their resources and steal their resources for their own benefit, not for the benefit of the people who have been invaded, certainly. And so my advice is stop. Stop believing in this religious ideology that you have clung on to. Because that's exactly what it is. That it is a religious ideology that says explicitly, do what you're told, believe the lie, spread the lie. The lie exists for your benefit. All you have to do is worship money. All you have to do is worship yourself. And all you have to do is put your faith in chaos, or what they call the free market. And goodness will spread throughout the world. And all you have to do to believe it is ignore reality entirely. Haven't all countries lied anyway? Okay. That's a step in the right direction. Okay. That's a sharp difference between America doesn't lie. So just because another country lies and America lies doesn't make America's actions justified. And that we are here. This channel exists. I am here. I stream constantly, specifically to decipher and discover what is a lie and what is not a lie. And we begin, as any wise individual would begin, from the position of, yeah, if the government is saying it, they're probably lying. And then we work to try to confirm whether or not what they're saying is true. But we have every reason to believe that they are lying. America supports that every country should have a democratic system. Well, no, that's not actually what America supports. Right? What America supports is the concept of liberal democracy. Right? Specifically, capitalist democracies, right? So if it is a democracy that does not allow the capitalists to be empowered, and there are many of those that exist in the world, then it's not considered a liberal democracy. And in many cases, it's not actually considered a democracy even. So America isn't actually pro-democracy, right? They are pro-capitalist power. That they want a government to go in, and as long as everybody democratically agrees that the capitalists should be in charge, then they're fine with it. And that's what's called a liberal democracy. Right? There are lots of examples, especially throughout Latin America. Latin America is the big one. Like, real good example would be Chile. Right? Chile elected leadership in the 70s. In the 1970s, the people of Chile, through their democratic system, democratically elected Salvador Allende. Right? Well, the Americans didn't like Allende. And so they supported a coup against him and installed a brutal leader by the name of Pinochet. Pinochet literally purged these people, thousands of people, and they instituted neoliberal shock therapy that destroyed the economy of Chile. America did it because socialism is seen as dictatorship. Yeah, which is a lie. Because America lies. Right? America did it for resources. Like, you seem to believe that America does what it does based on ideological principles. It does not. It might speak that way in order to convince people who are ideologically driven or persuaded that in order to convince people to go along with it. But the reason why America invades countries is for resources. And that is all. It is the only reason America does anything ever for any reason at all. That any excuse that it can find and any argument that it can levy that will persuade people like yourself in order to do it, they will do. And the only time America will actually expend resources in order to destroy a country based on ideological principles is when that ideological principle threatens their interests. So the reason why Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam and North Korea need to be bombed, right? They need to be carpet bombed, not for resources, but to ensure that China cannot get access to these countries. right, to staunch the spread of communism. And communism is considered the greatest existential threat to capitalism, because communism says within it, as a core and central theory, that capitalism should be abolished and that capitalists should not exist as a class of people. And so that's an existential threat that the capitalists are willing to fight over. But only because it means that they lose access to their resources. Most people in the world would like to live in America. Who gives a shit about that? America's the only country that doesn't get bombed by America. Like, what kind of fucking argument is that? Like, America goes to Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, Ecuador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Guyana, bombs the shit out of it, goes over here, levels this to rubble, bombs the shit out of all of this. Yeah, people are going to flee, right? So they're going to flee from their home country. They're already fleeing from their home country. Why? Because their country is getting the shit bombed out of it. Well, where should we go? Let's go to the country that's not getting the shit bombed out of it. What country is that? Oh, that's the country that's doing the bombing. So what kind of fucking argument is this? Yeah, let's find shelter in the one country that isn't getting bombed by the country doing the bombing. I mean, in the meantime, they're literally setting up concentration camps around this border. Kamala Harris literally saying, "Do not come here." Very welcoming country. Yeah. Did you know there's people daily dying trying to enter America through the Mexican border? Yeah, they're fleeing. Like, my man, like, I just don't think that you are at all respecting, like, if America goes to Nicaragua and carpet bombs Nicaragua, right? People are going to run. They're going to flee Nicaragua, right? They're going to go this way down, probably into Venezuela, Colombia, right? They're going to go this way up into Mexico. They're going to run, right? And many of them are going to end up here. It's called being a refugee. Who's creating the refugee crises? Who's creating these circumstances? Who is creating the chaos? Who is creating the circumstances? Oh, maybe the people doing the bombing. Oh, sweet summer child. America has nice standards like housing and infrastructure and very accessible goods and services. Mexicans themselves sneak themselves into America. Like, all you gotta do is ignore what the empire does, right? That's all. Like, I feel like what we're watching, and I've said this a lot on this channel, and I continue saying it, right, is it's like we're living in a town where there is, where Jason Voorhees is walking around. Just a guy in a hockey mask with a machete. He's just covered from head to toe in blood. And he's just walking around slaughtering people. And everybody is talking about the town and the circumstances of what's going in the town as if this guy is not doing this. Like, that's what these conversations are like for me. That you are watching a masked murderer slaughter people in front of you, and you're just pretending like it's not happening. And then you're trying to find a rationale for why people are screaming all the time and running around and are panicked. And oh wow, those people are acting very oddly. right? What? They're putting up barricades and pulling out weapons and all this. That seems very threatening. Oh, I'm gonna talk to my government about that. They can't put up these barricades and all and do all. That's very scary. That's very threatening. And then you just literally walk by the guy covered in blood in a hockey mask holding a machete as he's gutting someone. He's just gutting someone right in front of you. And you just walk by him and then petition your government to get rid of these barricades. And you're like, why are people fleeing? Why are people running away? That's what it's like. It's very, very odd to me. Very, very strange. I just think you're in for a rude awakening, Eduardo. Like, you want to live in America in the future? Okay. Well, enjoy the tent cities, right? Like, where in America do you want to move to? Let's be specific here, Eduardo. In Brazil, minimum salary is $200, rent is $100, and everything else, it's as if it was paid in dollars. In America, things are much better than in any Latin country. Okay, where in America do you want to move? Come on. Where do you want to go? Like, let's go. Because you know what you sound like right now? You sound like the guys that moved to the Virginia coal mines during the colonial period. High wages. High wages. Perfect. When I finish software engineering college, I'll go to Tampa, Florida. Good choice. Oh, man. Yeah, I feel like choosing Florida is an interesting choice for you, Eduardo. The current governor of Florida, yeah, rest in peace. Thanks, XD. You understand. The current governor of Florida, DeSantis, literally is passing legislation to keep people like you out of Florida. But I think the thing that you really got to think more about, and this is like, I'm trying to really help you here, okay? Because, fine, you want to move to America, my man. Okay, cool. That's your ambition. That's your goal, right? I'm not even going to try to talk you out of it. Like, I had wanderlust. I went all around Canada, right? When I was your age, I was all over the place. And so if you've got that opportunity for yourself, fantastic. You take that for yourself, Eduardo. I got no problem with that. But I am here to tell you, climate change is real. Florida is not the place you want to be, my man. Like, we got to do it. Sea level rise map. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good thing that we're about to do here. Cuz like this is a personal one, right? You believe in that tsunami takeover conspiracy. Oh goodness. Oh, poor Eduardo, man. Man, this conversation's actually gotten quite sad for me, Eduardo. You know why? Eduardo, you're gonna get blindsided by a lot of things, my man. You're gonna get blindsided by a lot of things, my man. There's a lot of very serious wake-up calls that you're gonna have in life. That right now you're kind of living in this sort of rose-colored glasses, naive sort of place where you think America is the greatest country in the world. You're excited because you're doing this degree. You've got You've got all this potential. You got all this energy. You want to believe that the world is actually, that the countries of the world are actually trying to resolve crises. Tampa. This website's being a bit. Here we go. Yeah. So if the sea level goes up a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. Let's say it goes up 10 feet. I love these maps. I think they're so cool. That's not as bad as I thought it would be, you know. Certainly not as bad as what's going to happen to Miami. Like, what's going to happen to Miami is going to be a real situation. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Louisiana is the one that's totally fucked. Like, poor fucking Louisiana, man. I feel for it. Again, it's right away, too. Like, 1 foot, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. My man, if you are actually saying... Oh, my goodness. The trouble with that reasoning is that we're not. We're not actually building this infrastructure. Poor Victoria. Like, we're not building this infrastructure. Like, we're not actually doing anything about it. You know? I think New York is going to be the interesting one, too. Like, New York's going to have... Like, the New York subway system's going to start becoming unusable during all of this. It's going to be wild to watch. And all of this flooding is going to happen all at once. How long will it... Well, this is the thing. Like, how long will the water, like, come up? This is the thing, is that, like, when it happens, it's gonna happen. Like, this is gonna be very dramatic. Like, this is gonna be a very dramatic shift. Right? Like, people want to believe, like, it's gonna be this tiny little incremental, slow, steady shift. It's not gonna happen that way. Right? Like, it's not going to happen that way. That what's going to happen is we're going to have one unusually warm year in a system that is becoming more and more unusually warm. Oh, yeah, that's a good thing to put up, actually, right now. I think I actually have that. Do I have that kid? That poor fucking kid. Nope. There he is. Yeah, this has big vibes. I think that's right, XD. I think this has big vibes. Like, global temperature is going up year after year. Every single year of the last 5 years has been the hottest on record, with each year breaking the record of the year previous. That's the trend, is upwards. And it's real simple, right? It's real simple. If you put a pot of water on a stove and turn the stove on, Well, you should expect that pot of water to steadily increase in heat and then suddenly boil. And that there are tip over points. And we are steadily heading to a tip over point. Source on that, Eduardo. Some scientists say winter's being colder and colder, and eventually we will die from cold because Earth is slowly getting far from the sun. Source, please. Like, the people who are causing the problem of climate change, the fossil fuel industry, right? They themselves admit that climate change is happening. Like, I'm really concerned about the quality of the education that you're receiving. If you're genuinely trying to argue that climate change is not real. Like, there are some extremely rude awakenings coming in your future. Some very, very rude awakenings. And what's going to happen with the climate change conversation? No thanks. I don't think I can. It looks like an incomplete link in the first place. Yeah. Oh, Bolsonaro was talking about it. Oh, okay. The guy that you say is actually quite on the left. So, you're pretty far right, eh? Like 50 years at best. I think that's pretty that's pretty generous, frankly. Like, I think the heat is all it's really going to take is there's going to be 1 year out of these extraordinarily hot years. Because you know how this goes. Like, I think about, like, we had, you just need an exceptional weather event, right? That's what you need. Just one exceptional weather event. Like, I remember when I used to live in Manitoba, that there was a huge blizzard in 96. Right? Just this massive blizzard that just covered everything with snow. It was enormous, right? It wasn't typical, but it was, so it was an unusual event. Well, when the average temperature goes up and the average temperature increases, and then you have an unusual weather event in the average. If you have a heat wave, when the heat is already up, it's going to be devastating. The wet bulb effect is going to be devastating on people. CH writes, as the world gets more musical chairs, like, there just won't be room for people like Eduardo. Yeah, he will just say that stupid stuff and just disappear and no one will care. Well, and there's going to be a moment where it'll be so obvious that it's happening that voices like this will just be completely dismissed. Like, I just dismiss you out of hand, right? Like, Eduardo, you've said some things on this chat that make me realize that, like, you're young and you're going to figure some things out as you grow up, sure. But if you're genuinely going to walk around saying that climate change is not real, I get to just dismiss you as an intellectual. Like, I just don't think you're in the conversation anymore. Like, I will happily just cut you out of the conversation because I just don't need that kind of... That level of dim-wittedness is just not welcome at the table. And very soon, sooner than you think, that's going to become the norm. That somebody standing up saying that climate change doesn't exist, the entire society will just look at them and be like, oh, okay, unsubscribe. And they'll just be done. And then they'll go off in a corner and cry about how they were canceled. And everybody will go, yes, we fucking canceled you. get canceled for being a dim-witted moron. Because climate change is 100% real. It is 100% coming. It is 100% going to catch everybody off guard, and no one is prepared for it. And the crisis will simply deepen. And when it begins to happen, everybody will just be told to deal with it. And there's a lot of voices in the conversation that are already just saying that. Well, when the water levels come up, people will just sell their houses and move, so it's fine. Thanks, Ben. Climate change and global warming are not effective. Purush. Gosh, what are you saying to me, Mikhail? What is that? No one ever says what they're really saying, which is anthropogenic-induced climate change. CH writes, he can't think, so he can't do software engineering. He won't last in an industry where everything is diagnostic discipline and scientific method. I mean, we'll see. Like, I think there's just, like, numbers is one thing. Yep, the tobacco industry sponsored studies that denied tobacco causes cancers and suppressed the studies for years. Yep. Yeah, but Bolsonaro said it's getting cooler. Yeah, exactly. Tat Purushas are compound words like boathouse and houseboat. Okay. Why do I believe in climate change? Because all the evidence shows that it's true. Because there's an overwhelming amount of evidence. Not only is there an international consensus, not only is there a consensus amongst world powers, not only is there a consensus within all of the international communities, not only is there a consensus among the intellectual classes of all societies, there is also a consensus amongst the fossil fuel industry itself. Like, the global consensus is overwhelming. And the only people who are still clinging on to this idea that climate change doesn't exist are frauds. Frauds and phonies who are paid to be frauds and phonies. The evidence is overwhelming. Like, we've got the climate change deception dossiers that goes through it. Here's NASA's evidence. Where's that one? I had the one that was just really beautiful because it was just like, I need to organize this. Straight up. This is so brutal. I need to get this organized. I'm too, maybe I'm like, how do we know climate change is real? Hey. Ice core data. Oh shit. Through the roof. Snow cover decreasing, sea levels rising, Arctic ice in decline, extreme events increasing in frequency, ocean acidification increasing. Like, this is NASA, right? This isn't some hacky little website being provided by Bolsonaro in order to make his rich buddies richer. Hold on, there's the one that I really wanted to show because it was just so beautiful. It was so fucking beautiful, and I'm going to take a moment, and I'm actually going to find it, because it's like, is it this? I don't think so. Yeah, this is the great stuff. This is what people tune in for right here. Everybody. Oh, hold on. I think I love this one, if I recall. Oh yeah, this is great. Air's global carbon dioxide. Right? This is here, let's start from the beginning. Here's the global carbon dioxide from 2003. Right? Like, do you trust the American company? It's not a company, first of all. Of NASA, spelled with an S, not a Z. Do I trust the people who put men on the moon to understand the Earth better than you? Yeah. Significantly. And it's just like one source. Like, the sources are overwhelming. Like, I feel like when you get trapped in a religious ideology in this way, and you start just believing in just this total phony bullshit. That there is no evidence that you could see. There's nothing that will convince you, because you've just kind of fallen into a religious ideology. Right? Like, I don't even remember what this one was. This isn't the one I wanted to show. Oh, it's a nice map. I really wish I could find that one thing. It was just like the one. Oh, I think it's just this, actually. Now that it's like right there. Like, yeah, it's this. Great. So, September 24th, 2011. September 20th, 2016. There's one map where it goes like back and forth. But what we're seeing is droughts. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Literally. So droughts, right? Droughts are spreading. Climate change isn't real, though. Nothing to see here. Totally normal. Completely typical. 2011, or sorry, 2000, yep, 2011, 2016. No climate change. Definitely not happening. For sure. There's no droughts happening. The increase in temperature is not having an impact on the arable land. The increase in temperature is not actually sucking out moisture from the earth. It's not increasing the desertification. There's no concern to be had here. Everything's completely normal. Totally fucking normal. Yeah, Canada is burning. Yeah, because the temperature's going up, my man. like the temperature's going up. Like, we're in the middle of this crisis. Like, it's so wild to find somebody who's just like, oh, it's okay. Did you know we can fit the whole world population in a city like New York? Look, man, I know that you're not really a serious person, right? But, like, what happens when you put a pot of water on a stove and then turn that water on to boil? What happens? Like, what happens? the water boils, right? How much life do you think is going to live in a boiling pot of water? Like, literally 30 seconds ago, you were denying that climate change exists. You think a lot of things can live in a boiling pot of water. What are you talking about? Go boil a pot of water. Stick your hand in it. What are you talking about? Like, my man, what the fuck is happening here? I just don't think you are respecting the power and the scale of the Earth and the universe. But aren't there air conditioners? But aren't there air conditioners? You think that we are going to defeat the sun with air conditioners? Did you know in Egypt, Cairo, and the United Emirates, Dubai temperatures get 40 to 50 degrees? Yeah. Like, they're the first to go. Like, I just think that people don't want to allow into their mind space how dramatic this could possibly get. They just don't want to allow it into their consciousnesses. That, like, you're not going to be able to breathe the air. Like, you're not going to be able to breathe the air. Like, you're walking around talking about how, like, well, capitalists provide the greatest level of consumption and all of this. Like, the consequence for that is going to be dramatic and serious. Wildly dramatic. Yeah, and now it's the bargaining section. Right? We could have a mega global project with which Japan, America, China all unites to solve the problem by injecting cooling substances into the atmosphere, or develops an air filtrating machine, or any project. None of that is happening. 0% of that is happening. Like, there's no project, there's no plan, there's no country coming together to do that. It's not a serious thing. It's just wishful thinking. It's not actually happening. It's just coping. It's not happening because nobody's worried about it. Yeah, that's the reason why they all get together and do COP28 and all that, right? Nobody's worried about it. Not a serious thing, right? That's the reason why everybody's talking about it and everybody's concerned about it. No, the issue is that there are massive conglomerate corporations who are interested in maintaining their power, and they get their power by selling fossil fuels. Like, that's what's actually happening. Can Canada reach hundreds of millions of inhabitants because of immigration this century? I don't know. I mean, it could technically, but... oh, goodness. Well, Eduardo, I wish you the best, my man. I hope you do okay with the blindsides that are coming your way. That's the end of this one, guys. Always remember, Each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck.